On the agenda tonight, we have the building community, Mr. Zuliger, Lake Elmo Library, we have public safety, policing, and quality life programming with a few entities under that header. Mr. Zuliger, would you start us off with building community?
Mayor and member of the City Council, this is our fifth workshop that we've had this year. You might remember we talked about transportation. We've met our ordinance obligations by meeting with both the Parks Commission and the Planning Commission, and we've had a session on downtown development that we've taken a look at. We've also talked about transportation. Tonight we want to kind of focus on quality of life and those kinds of things that aren't necessarily more bricks and mortar, but more kind of community building, kind of weaving the fabric of our community. And we've got two things we want to talk to you about that are also budgetary and programmatic for us. One is the library, and the other is public safety and policing. And Sheriff Hutton or Commander Dexter will talk to you a little bit about what's going on in terms of our law enforcement program in Lake Elmo. Then under item number 5, you'll have the Youth Services Bureau and Family Means, two organizations that we've worked with one way or the other on projects. And then we've got a group of citizens that want to talk to you about disabled and special needs housing in the city as we take a look at development. If there's time, we may present to you the community engagement survey results. If that doesn't happen, it'll show up one of the council meetings. We're going to start out with the library, and I want to let you know that our library is established under Section 134 of the state statutes. And under 134.13, the library board is supposed to present a report to the governing body of the city or county on all amounts received during the preceding year, amounts expended, what purposes, number of library materials on hand, the number purchased and loaned, basically an annual report on their maintenance of effort, which is a library term that I'm sure Linda will fill you in on here in a second, and how they're using the portion of our levy that goes to the library. This is the first time we've done this, but this is a statutory requirement. We are supposed to have done it by April 1st. We're a little bit late there, but I think we're getting a little bit of grace from the state on this one as a new library. So without further ado, I'm going to present to you our librarian, Linda Orsted, to kind of take you through the library presentation, and then Sheriff Hutton will be up next. So, Linda?
Thank you. Well, Linda?
Thank you. Just a couple comments on the annual report. This library, okay, the library files an annual report with the state library also, and that was due on April 1st. And sometime during the summer, we will receive some edit checks back from them, and then it will be finalized. But that is where all of every single statistic and every I is dotted and T is crossed. So probably in the fall, that will be available as the final report as well that we will share with the city. And meanwhile, we'll do a little more interesting version of what's been going on at the library. Let's see. Here you see our new Lake Elmo Public Library. Our purpose is to serve the community, and preschool story time is one of our most popular programs. Children are our most valuable community resource. I think we would all agree that they are our future. So we provide high quality early literacy programs to get them started on their learning path. And here's some more views of the activities that are going on every single week. We have 2 wonderful storytellers. Families need to have the library to enjoy the community resources that we provide for homework support and for leisure activities, and some of our great programming that we do for kids. There are no age requirements to use the library. This little guy that you see over on the right, I think he was about 2 weeks old when he came to the library the first time. He comes with his mom and his big sister at story time every Friday. We are a community gathering place. Adults of all ages use the library as a community gathering place to meet their friends and share opinions, concerns, and good times. Whether you read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, or the local and regional papers, the library is a great place to have a cup of coffee and catch up on the news for free. And if you've purchased a New York Times or Wall Street Journal subscription lately, you know that it's not cheap. So it's great to be able to offer that to everyone in the library. It's also a great place to corral your rocking horse while you pick out a good book or a movie. Patron-driven collection development is a recent trend in library services nationwide. If you need or want a title, we strive to purchase it for you as quickly as possible. Most newer titles we're able to provide to the patron in 2 or 3 days, which is a much faster delivery rate than traditional interlibrary loan. We provide state-supported electronic databases on our website under the MinKnows Minnesota History Online links, and links to online dictionary, state and federal web portals, the MinSure link, and many others. We responded to the need to provide Lake Elmo residents with free ebooks by adding these 3 options. The Friends of the Lake Elmo Library and the Lake Elmo Bank partnered to bring us the Tumble Books for Children subscription this year. At the beginning of 2013, the library was open 20 hours per week. Our hours of service have increased 40% in the last 12 months. We are now open 42 hours per week. And we are always open on our website. Studies have shown that children who are read to from the time they are infants are more likely to succeed in school. We have joined the hundreds of libraries across the country who participate in the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten Challenge. Our library volunteers are proud and happy to promote this program to the community. We're so fortunate to have the Stillwater Elks as a community partner in this important endeavor. I don't think it would have been able to mount this program quite so soon without their seed money. Energetic volunteers helped to create new spaces for the library from a former office suite. And we are definitely using that space now. Read Some More Books, our summer reading program for this year, kicked off yesterday. In 2013, we had 178 children participate in the first summer reading program, so we're hoping to top that number this year. Maintaining reading skills over the summer break is an important function of public libraries across the country. These are the dates for the program, and here are a few of the fascinating programs that we have lined up for the summer. The Medallion Hunt began yesterday. The weekly programs on Wednesdays for grade school and junior high readers and families, and these are a few of them. The Pint-Sized Heroes with the American Red Cross will be promoting our Bloodmobile visit on July 8th, and Power Up for Kids will partner, and I believe Chomp will be showing up next week, Chomp the Carrot. Birdawaki is a program from the Como Park Zoo that combines children's literature and bringing live animals from the zoo. Kids Who Read, our Cool Magic Show, will be our final program in August. The 3M Visiting Wizards will have a demonstration of magnetic fun, and we will have a story and movie event, and a few other things. Reading incentives help the children keep focused on the program. We do not require kids to read a certain number or type of book. They read at their own pace and choose the books that interest them. And here are some of the incentives that we've been able to get from local and regional businesses. Target has donated $10 gift cards that we will be drawing for every Saturday from the children who come in the library every day. They can sign up as many times as they come in. After reading 5 hours, they will get an ice cream cone from Gorman's Restaurant. After reading 15 hours, they will get a free game and a $10 pins card. The first one to find the medallion, we hope by the end of the week, will win a season pass to Lake Elmo Park Reserve, and then, of course, all the other parks that honor that pass. Each program, we will be having some drawings, and the final program, they will be able to enter to win a pass from the Minnesota State Fair. And we would like to thank the Lake Elmo JCs who have again generously donated towards paying for some of these programs. Another of our partners is the Lakeview Hospital's Power Up for Kids. This is the second year that we've partnered for them in helping children to understand the value of healthy eating and leading active lives. Chomp the Carrot will be making another visit next week, and they will also be doing some programming and games with them. So here's a picture from last year of one of our weekly winners of the drawing. The first day of summer reading, as I said, was yesterday. So this is a picture. These were taken yesterday. These families were amazed and thrilled with the new children's space when they trooped in yesterday morning. And it was indeed trooping in at 10 o'clock. They all wanted to get the first clue for the medallion hunt, and they all were saying, "Wow, this is fantastic," when they came in the new room. It's never too early to start reading. Colorful child-sized furniture invites eager readers and bears as well. We see our programs as one of our strengths. The community was so eager to hear Dr. David Steele's lecture on the personality of Adolf Hitler that we had to have him 3 times. Also pictured here are Jan Lehman of Can the Clutter, an organizational expert, Washington County Attorney Pete Orput, who gave a program on identity theft, and Superintendent Corey Lunn from the Stillwater School District, who talked about the November school funding ballot issue. We also had several authors visit. The local and regional authors are very happy to come and talk about their books. One of the more recent ones was Lori Sturdivant, who has written a fascinating book on Rosalie Wall, first woman justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court and Lake Elmo resident, as I'm sure you all know. All of these authors were very gracious about sharing their time with us. Chuck Logan had a lot to say about the reality of having his book transformed into an almost unrecognizable movie plot. It was really fascinating. We've had fun highlighting collections for month-long reading programs. Participants are entered into drawings for prizes. The blind date with the book was especially popular, and Candyland from Stillwater donated 2 prizes for our blind date with the book program. Michelle Erickson and Bernie Wilkie are longtime volunteers. Bernie started out volunteering at the Washington County branch several years ago, then went to the Friends of the Library interim library, and is now our nonfiction advisor at the Lake Elmo Public Library. Here are a few more of our volunteers. This is the J team, Jean, Julene, and Joyce, who are definitely fun-loving and helpful. Julene and Joyce are there several hours every week, and Jean is there several hours each month. So in all, we laugh, we learn, we Zentangle. Some of our groups meet weekly. This is the writers who are there on Monday mornings, talk about their craft. And Cafe Philo explores the world of ideas. They meet on Wednesdays at 10:15 to solve the problems of the world. And this slide did not show up the way it was supposed to, so I will tell you what's on there. Taking stock. We're still growing, adapting, and responding to the needs of the community. Our collection, comparing the end of May of 2013 to the end of May 2014, in 2013, we had 8,686 items. And 2014, we have 12,798 items. Our circulation in May last year was 818, and in May this year, it was 1,114. Cards, in the end of May in 2013, we had 788 card holders. And the end of this month, May this year, we have 1,569 card holders.
Did you say double in a year?
Over double, yeah. Okay, let's go. Here we go. Our goal. Future plans to provide excellent library services to meet the demands of our community by making improvements to our building to provide services for our growing collection and program needs. To increase our hours of operations to better serve the community. To partner with Washington County as a respected and independent affiliate library. To respond to the evolving world of information delivery, to provide our community with the best access to resources. Thank you for supporting the little library that could. And now I'll turn it over to Ann unless there are some questions.
No, any questions right now?
Okay,
I'm
Ann's
good.
going to talk about the money side.
Thank you, Linda.
Mhm.
Nice job.
Thank you. We'll just put the goals back up there.
Linda, with your goals, hours of operation, is there a long-term goal of number of hours, or you just play it by ear in each community?
Basically, that would come down to whether we have the resources to hire more staff. Because we just need to make sure that the hours are covered. And we have a lot of volunteers, but they're only available, most of them don't want to be available every weekend, every night.
Yeah.
So staffing is the main barrier to having more hours right now.
Yeah, optimally, how many hours would you need?
It's hard
Well,
to say.
maybe what's a typical, would you mind going to the mic? What's it, maybe, is this a fair question, what's a typical library, what's a typical branch?
Yeah, I mean, what would be, I mean, if it's a goal, what would be the best case scenario of,
Well, we would like to add some Sunday hours. We would like to add some more hours in the evenings during the week. So, yeah, I guess off the top of my head, I would say probably we'd want to add at least 12 hours to
Okay.
our week.
okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
here to, as treasurer, to explain the budget to you, and do you each have a budget in front of you?
We do.
I'm hoping? Okay, great. I want to thank Linda because she showed how the library brings the community together and the different things that go on at the library. I also would like to go over the budget and thank Kathy Bendel for her help in helping Linda and I and everyone on the Finance Committee to better understand the city's budgeting process. If you look at the budget, there's a lot of numbers on the budget. I'd like to highlight some of those numbers because I think they're important. The first one is at the top of the budget, and it feeds back to what you asked about how many hours we'd like to be open. At the present time, last August, we hired Linda to be our full-time accredited librarian. And we started her salary, but we'd like in 2015 to have a base salary of $38,192. Plus, we'd like to give her benefits that we think she deserves and does, and she should have. The thing is that she works 40 hours. And you asked about expanding the hours. To do that, you can see that we do have a part-time person listed as $11,000. And the reason for that $11,000 expense is to expand the hours. Moving down on the budget item, there's the library collection. If you look at it and it says $43,000, that might look rather overwhelming. However, breaking it down, I think you'll understand where that number comes from. The patrons did ask for the electronic books. As Linda explained to you, Washington County decided that they no longer wanted to have our patrons be able to use them even though they had bought the library card. So we did spend money to have electronic books available for our patrons. Also, the subscriptions account for $2,000. That used to be in a separate line item that's now been rolled into the library collections maintenance. We do have public computers that are in the library, and we feel that we need to spend probably about $1,000 next year for the upkeep on those. The biggest part of that item, though, is the print. And we're looking at about $37,500 for print material. We need to keep the purchases. When people come in and ask for certain books, we like to respond to those. As Linda explained to you, that's one thing. The other thing is that we do buy the bestsellers so that our library is up to date and we're not an out-of-date library. By fulfilling our patrons' request and buying the bestsellers, that brings in more patrons, which means the circulation goes up, which means more patrons come in, and that makes the library a growing place and also a place that the people in the community are using. Moving down on that library budget for 2015 to repair, maintain building, there's a price of $35,000. That is for jobs that are repairs that are going to be inside the building. We bought and paid for the building in 2 years at the City Council's request, which is kind of an amazing thing because we were also trying to have programs going on at the same time. Volunteers kept the expenses down during that time, but repairs do need to be done to the building, which is an historic building in the area. It's also an area building that brings people to the downtown area. Today, though, we have expanded the building in that we took the front room, which was an office, and turned it into a children's reading room. As you can see, Linda took pictures of that, and you can see how it has changed immensely. For 2015, though, the sewer is going to be coming to Lake Elmo. And with that, the library will be expanding and be using money for plumbing. We felt that because we have to do plumbing for the sewer, that would be an optimum time to add the ADA bathroom to the facility. It is a legal requirement and will cost about $30,000. Looking forward to 2016, though, we probably will spend another $30,000 because we'll have to be paying for the sewer assessment at that time. Continuing on to the next item, which is repair, maintenance, non-building. That is for the items that are outside the library building. Next year, with the sewer coming into the building, we feel that it would be a good time to be paving the parking lot. The price for doing that is about $40,000. The downtown, we're not sure what's going to happen, but we've been told that the downtown area will be upgraded, and we think that something will be happening to the sidewalk and the road in front of our building. We would like to put aside $5,000 to pay to redo the sidewalk, and when we do that, we think that probably it would be a good time maybe to add some lighting and also a bench in front of the library building. For future work, when we can, we feel that we need to continue to maintain the building, and the items that are big ticket items that we will try to have done at some time are putting gutters on the south side of the building for $8,500. We have already spent $8,500 to put gutters and fascia on the north side. We do need to put new siding on the west facade for $1,500. Basement ventilation needs to be done for about $5,000. And there's a retaining south wall that needs to be repaired that's going to have an estimated cost of about $4,000. The next item, if you move further down, almost to the bottom of the budget, you'll look at programs. It has an increased expense, and that's the reason is that this is a new category for 2015. It is $6,000. We feel that the programs are integral to the library. Not only do we have programs that we bring internally, but also we do work with the businesses in Lake Elmo. A very successful program was when we worked with the Lake Elmo Wine Company. Also, by doing these programs, we're educating not only the small children in early childhood, but also all of our public. And it does, the other thing it does is it does promote all of Lake Elmo to the community. We have had donations in the past, $600 from the J.C.'s and also $1,500. You'll notice that that's not included in our budget for 2015. The reason being that we will hope to get some grant money, we will hope to get donations, but we can't count on them when we're doing our budgeting. And so at the present time, we are having 1,000 books before kindergarten program going on, and also the summer reading program. We did receive the donations for those two programs, and we hope to continue that. I think some of you have small children in your homes, and we would hope that you would bring your children to our programs at the library and have them enjoy them. We thank you for supporting the library. We hope that you continue to use our library, and I'd accept questions at this time.
Questions, council? Thank you, Ann. I've got a couple.
I do,
I guess,
but you can go ahead first, please.
okay. Can I start with the collections? You're gonna ramp it up, and maybe this is a question for Linda. I know we've often said that, you know, you come in and you get a book, we'll get it for you. Okay, and it sounds great, but I wonder if we're being as, I don't know, deliberate in choosing what is a reasonable book at the library. I'm assuming that you are. And I know that this collection is sparse, so how do we decide? Is there,
Well, we don't necessarily buy everything that's requested, but just about, unless it's a real outlier, like something that's very old and rare or very expensive. Most of the time, if someone asks for a book or a video or an ebook, they're not the only person that's gonna wanna look at this. Someone else is gonna use the collection. And as I said, this is kind of a cutting-edge philosophy in libraries development right now, that the patrons know what they want. That's why they're using the library. We are basically a popular materials center. That's what most public libraries are, unless they're really huge and become research centers or something like that. So, yes, we do buy what people ask, but then most likely someone else will use the
right,
same
you've got a
item.
handle on it.
One thing that Ann didn't mention, that something that I've noticed over the last couple of years is, you know, I used to buy a bestseller discounted price for maybe $14 or $15. Now I'm spending $20 to $21. So publishing in industry is definitely making more money than we are, and we're paying for it.
Is that number, the number that we ascribe to collections, is that, do you have any way of gauging if that's comparative to others?
It's definitely in the range of what would be expected. When I worked in Pennsylvania, we were required to spend at least 12% on the budget of the budget on collection. And this is about 15%, a little over 15%. So I think it's definitely in the range, especially in our situation, because we are still building our collection.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. I haven't had a whole lot of time to look through this. I'm sure the council hasn't as well. I know you're a frugal bunch, and it's made my task on the board a lot easier because of that, so I appreciate that. I guess, on a whole, I'm looking at some of the larger ticket items and thinking perhaps that we could maybe budget accordingly in future years. If we want to be separate and distinct, then perhaps we should look at it, some of these things, as the city does. You know, we kind of bond for things, and it goes over an extended period of time, you know. So I think that maybe that should be, I'm not sure what my direction is, but I'm sure it's going to be, or my hope is that we can come up with a needs and wants kind of thing. And maybe, you know, for instance, the parking lot, to take that down one fell swoop in 1 year seems to be a big, I get that you'd want that, but it seems to me to be a big nut to crack in 1 year. And I see we're 95 in the black right now, or 98 in the black. Is that my understanding?
That really is money that is forward funding, and it was until the next payment. So we don't have the extra money sitting aside.
Well, I understand, but that's January when we get the next levy dollars. At the end of the year, is that what we're projecting? We're projecting that surplus of 98.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. It's the, you have a good point?
The 92 that you see at the bottom of the projected 2014 actual column
Yep.
will be, my understanding is that will be our fund balance, so it will take into account money that we did not spend in 13, plus income in 14, minus expenses in 14. That would be our fund balance at the end of 14. However, after and including our December payment of the library levy, so it's necessary because from December 31st, 2014, we won't get another infusion of cash until July of 2015. So what that really is our, what do we call it today, our pre-funding or something? It's the money that we need to have.
Forward funding.
Forward funding, the
Operating
money
budget,
at the
yeah.
beginning of the year so we can pay for our expenses during the first half of 15.
Okay.
We were also encouraged to have that.
I agree. I know, I understand that. We wanted to keep that 60% of reserves and all that. I'm starting to wonder about that myself. Did you want to say?
Yeah, that goes right to my question. I briefly looked at this afternoon, so I have rough idea of what's going on here, but correct me if I'm wrong, but 2012, it looks like there was a positive cash flow of $185,000. In 2013, $41,000 positive cash flow. So what is the fund balance?
At the
I don't
present
think
time, I don't,
2012
do you know?
what it says.
Actually, I have to make a correction here. If you look at the building repayment column there, in 2012, under the actuals, you should see the 120,000, give or take. That's not there.
Where's that?
In the 2012 actual column, the first building repayment is not there. You see the second payment in 2013 under actuals at 118. So that 185 needs to be reduced by 120,000.
So that's 60 roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Actually,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the 40,912.99, that is the exact balance at the end of 2013 from the audit.
So at the end of the actual, that's the exact balance at the end of 2013,
Of,
40,000.
of the fund.
Yeah, of the fund.
So please explain to me just, and if you gotta do it tomorrow or the next day, that's fine.
Yep.
But if we had 60,000 plus in 2012 at the end of the year, and we had a positive cash flow of 41 in 2013, shouldn't that be 100?
Yeah, it should. Yep. I have to
it-
go back and check.
And I'm
'cause
not
this
saying the
isn't
money's in there, I'm just,
Yeah.
if I'm looking at these numbers, that's what I'm seeing.
Taken from 12 to 13.
And
Got it.
we were paying off the building in those
Yeah,
years,
no,
too.
Right.
great.
Yep,
I
no.
appreciate that, I understand that. What I'm taking is, if you take your revenue minus your expense, you get your cash flow for the year.
We were also borrowing, we didn't have enough money because of that, and we were borrowing money from the city too, at that time. We're no longer
Oh.
borrowing money from the city at this point. We're now solvent. I guess, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
a
no.
right term to use, but we're solvent at this point, and we weren't back then.
Okay, so maybe my
I'll
requ-
reconcile this to cash, because this was just focusing on revenue and expense, so, but I'll follow up on that.
Perfect, that's what I was gonna ask, thank you.
Councilmember Smith?
Well, so right now, we're up by 95,000, we're up by 98,000?
It still doesn't make sense.
At the end of this year,
the
Kathy,
end of-
correct me if I'm wrong, the way things are outlined,
We will
there,
be,
at January 1 of 15, there'll be 98.
And we were,
Or 90,
Two.
92, correct? And obviously, that money will instantly go to start paying the bills and, you know.
January 1st.
January 1st and whatnot. But then if you fast
but then you
forward
get
it,
that to
you'll get
July,
that
you
back.
get your,
you get the
your
next
half
payment, yeah.
payment.
So,
Right.
and the real half would be 130, 100 and, whatever, 130, $140,000.
Yep.
So we're still behind. We
Yeah, a
don't
little
really
bit.
have all the money that we really need. So we're still building, yeah,
what we're trying
because
to,
of those large payments, though, to pay the city back for the building.
right.
That's really what has gotten us
Yeah.
to where we're at now. Fast forward 4 or 5 years, and there should be a surplus. I
Well,
mean,
the problem is that we have the repairs to do on the building.
Yes.
And that's we got the building at a good price, but the thing is that there's major repairs that have to be done.
Yep.
And they have to be done. It's just like putting in the ADA bathroom. Legally, we have to have it. And you may not want to spend your money that way, but it's required.
Right.
And so there's some other things that need to be done. This is a city building, and we want to keep it in good repair.
Right.
So even though it looks like, I mean, it's not exciting to put on gutters, but that's something that has to be done. And so I don't see us having an extra cash flow.
I find gutters very exciting.
Yeah.
My next question
Well,
is really.
Can I just
he had-
follow up,
he had
because
one
we're
he
Oh,
wanted
I'm
talking
to
about
follow
sorry.
that same thing?
Yes, I thought you were done.
Nope.
Go
So, again, I just want to go back to Kathy. If they cash flow 92 grand in 14 at the end, they should really have 130,000 in a balance,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So you're actually going to be better than what you think you are, I believe. So, and we'll let Kathy sort that out and send it to us, but it looks like you're going to cash flow $90,000 in 14. Add that to your current balance, you should really have 130. But
But we won't have the 130 until July. And if your total budget is 200 and, whatever it is, 270,000, then we really are still, we're still not up to par.
I understand the cash flow part of it. You're, what you need money to run the operation, I get it. But in the end, if this is right, at the end of 14, you should have $130,000 in the bank, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just let Kathy work it. I just want to make, because that's a positive for you guys if you have 130.
And, yeah, and then we'll actually have the real amount of money to work on for the 6 months.
I'd love to speak to this one also, because I hear the council sort of wondering out loud, oh gosh, if we catch up on these repairs, can we, will the library cost a lot less to operate? And what I want to make sure that you're aware of is that we are doing great things with programs, and people are coming in. We're really building a community center, and we're building it on a shoestring right now. And if you like what you're seeing at the library, you need to know that we can do 10 times that when we are done putting out fires and filling potholes, that we can really have, a staff person dedicated to a program so we can get people in, make sure we're serving all the segments of our population. We can relieve a little bit of the volunteer burden so we can use our brain cells instead of our backs to build the building, so we can pay for a few more things that need to happen. And so it's not just that we have big repairs coming up, we also have big plans in terms of collection development and in terms of program development and really making this place a community center that people want to come to and spend time in and brag about. So there's that aspect as well.
Right.
I'm done.
You're done. Yeah, I think if you took Wally's direction, and I don't know how we'll look through the numbers and maybe we can get together and convey where we think we want the library budget to be, and obviously you can tell us where you think it should be. Personally, I think that it's pretty robust as we are right now. I think we paid the building off, and I think a lot of credit goes to you people, and all the work that you've done has been fantastic. But I definitely want to see us look at these numbers and crunch. And I think we need to, personally, from my perspective, I get that we want to have more hours. I get that we want to give Linda some help in that. I think that makes perfect sense. Collections make sense. Paving a parking lot for 40 grand, while it may make sense, it's certainly a cost that I would say that would be probably accrued over time. And I don't think we need to bite it off in one fell swoop, just like we do our roads, kind of similar to that, and some of the other things that you've got on here. So I would like to see a little bit more austere. And I think we can do that. I think that just a little bit that we've talked about, seems like we can. So there you go. Did you want to add anything?
I had a question. My question, Ann, is that I like the idea of, and I see the volunteers in there when I go in. I like the fact that you do order books. I had a son who needed a book. I couldn't get it at any library. Linda bought it. It was a book that other 7th graders and 8th graders are going to have to read. Someone is going to request that book. I think that's a smart plan. So I was pretty impressed by that. As far as increasing those hours, because what I think is key at this point is getting some of those nighttime hours, which are pretty tough to fill. And my question would be, how can we approach this where we could get some younger, maybe high school students that have to fill some type of requirements, or to maybe open those evening hours up? Because certainly with the volunteers that you have, they seem to be giving an awful lot of time already during the days, and Linda's there all day long. Times that I'm in there, and I go in there now quite regularly, I see a lot of the same faces. So is there a possibility of capturing some free help or some inexpensive help? Or is that just not allowed because you're a library?
Well,
That's the
let me
piece
let
I don't
Marge-
understand.
Let me let Marge, who's in
They
charge
already
of
do that.
volunteers, speak to that.
They ever have somebody that just fills that very bill, I believe. I think Marge will explain that.
I want to speak to the personnel issues. That's my, I guess, job on the board. We have tried to get high school students. It is possible in some districts to use high school students as long as they meet certain requirements, and we do have a background check even for high schoolers. Unfortunately, we haven't had good success. We have talked to the Honor Society at the high school. We've had a few high schoolers, but that's just not, they're very busy. They're in sports, they're, especially if they're juniors and seniors, which is the group that we particularly would like. They're very much either college-focused or other-focused. So it's a great idea. The problem is trying to get them to come. We did have a couple of kids that did it the first year or two, but haven't had them return. And I think that's certainly something we want to keep working on. And it's certainly a good experience. I think it's a good work experience to be in the library. It's a safe environment. It's an easy access to learning about how to meet and greet people. So I think it's good for us to keep pushing on that issue.
So my follow-up question, Marge, would be, I remember, 25, 30 years ago, taking Introduction to the Library. I took a course on how to use the library at college. So there's obviously people that go into the library business, or they go to school for that. What about college students? And are we as a library allowed to hire interns? Just like the planning department is hiring a $10 intern, are we allowed to hire interns that could fill those
sure.
type of hours?
Yeah, a part of, as,
And does that
yeah,
just
and
hurt our
that's certainly a possibility. We've actually discussed that. We're very fortunate. One of the things that Linda did was to get us into a government program, which you could kind of explain it better than I could, because we do have one worker, I don't know if you're aware of that, who is actually paid by the federal government. And we're hoping that if that person ever leaves, that we would get another one of those workers. It happened to be a local woman who is in a special program, and so we're able to get her, but we don't have to pay for her. So that's a wonderful, wonderful way to get a worker. But certainly interns are also another way. But this is a big issue for us because we do have burnout with volunteers. We have about 70 volunteers, but over the course of, I would say, the last year and a half, we have about 14 or 15 active at-the-desk volunteers. We certainly have tons of volunteers in terms of the building. We have a group of people who are very dedicated for the painting and the, all the maintenance of the building. But those at-the-desk volunteers are what allow us to go to 42 hours or 50 hours.
Well, I think the mayor said it, and he gave a lot of credit to the people who are out there volunteering. You know where I stood on this 3-4 years ago. I'm impressed to see where we're at now. And with things changing down in the old village, integrating this into a bigger city plan is coming into focus for me, which 3 or 4 years ago, Marge, it really wasn't. But I use the library. Linda can attest to that, because I go in there and I'm pretty much not a very computer-oriented person, and I have to get the people to help me in there, and they've done a really good job. They really have. Every one of you and all of the people that I've seen on and off when I've been in there, kudos to all of you for working and bringing this library up to where it's at, because it's pretty impressive to walk into.
I did want to add, it's not a personnel issue, but I wanted to speak to, a little bit about the finances, and I want to say, I think this is the cheapest deal for the city to stimulate downtown business. We have so much feedback from businesses downtown that say this is just the greatest thing for them, because now they have walk-in traffic downtown, which they have not had before. So even for our 260,000, it sounds like a lot for a library, but when you consider the benefits to the community, it's a really cheap deal. Thanks.
Thank you. Sure. If anybody else would like to talk, speak to the library.
Steve
now's
DeLapp
your
on the
opportunity.
library board and Lake Jane Trail. Great introductions to our staff. I'm speaking as someone who has never heard a question about finance that didn't register. My dad, who was a school board chair, also went to the library every day after he retired, and they hated him because he told them they were wasting money. They spent, for a town of 18,000, about double Lake Elmo, their budget is $3 million a year for operating expenses. They just bought a parking lot because they needed more space by tearing down a house for $750,000 for a quarter acre of parking. He thought they went a little bit too far. But in any case, what I wanted to say is some of our budget that I helped Ann with on the exterior facilities has to be shaped by you and the staff, because we've got the Damon Farber study about connecting downtown with the eastern part of the city. There's links being proposed. We've got a partially buried and partially daylighted creek that runs by the library. There's a lot of opportunities that I think maybe, Mr. Mayor, you might be on a committee with Brett Emmons on that?
I am.
You are, okay. So Brett's going to be bringing up how that creek might become an asset to the city with some landscaping. And there's the other possibility, other concern that with the ball fields and the library, parking becomes an issue, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, we've got too many empty parking lots at our parks. But here's one that gets full, and what's happening is that people are parking on the adjacent property owner's property.
Yeah.
The library, you'd think it owned property in the back by the ball fields, it doesn't own. So that's a key issue that has to come into play, and if the library had an opportunity to buy a chunk of parking from that property that could be shared with the parks, and a walking path that could be shared with the city as part of the downtown plan, I know that everybody on the library board would want to be supportive of that. But the lead on that comes from you guys and staff, I think.
All
Okay?
right, thank you. Thanks. Well, we're a little bit behind, want to keep the schedule to some degree. Would anybody like to speak on it? We're good? Okay. Anything else? Thank you much. We'll have to kind of get together and come up with maybe further refinement upon the budget. Ann, did you want to say something?
No, I just think that the thing is that in order to make the library, there's a lot of volunteers that work at the library that do a lot of things. And the thing is that they're not going to be here forever to do all these things. And some of the money that we're putting into this is because we know that we're going to lose that free labor and that free time. And I think the library is not just a library. The library is a gathering spot. The library is part of the downtown area. There was a developer who asked me what was going to happen with the library because in his development, he wanted to be able to promote this as something that would be here and that his residents could use. It's an asset to the community.
Well, I think we all get that. I mean, I'd like to think we do. I certainly do. And again, I can't say enough the phenomenal job you all have done. Yeah, just a budgetary thing. So again, I think you're right to look towards maybe putting more personnel on. I get that. And to me, it's just the asset portion of it. It's city asset, city building.
We can't
and I
bond
think-
for a parking lot. We can't do that.
No, I
So
understand.
we have to pay for
Okay,
it.
I understand that. Just to give you some insight of what I'm thinking, it's $290,000 City of Lake Elmo gives to the county. That's the levy. Okay, $290,000. We're gonna talk to the sheriff, and sheriff is roughly $500,000. So I'm just saying, from my perspective, it seems like, yes, it's a great thing. Yes, I'm still in favor of it. But I think that if we are not going to be within the county, if that's where we want to go with the board, we want to work some things out. I know the county's addressing some things about making reimbursement easier and all that. Then I think we have to understand that. So yes, I know the library board cannot bond for the parking lot. But up until this time, we've been borrowing money from the city, and the library fund's paying it back, and it's not cost the taxpayers a dime to that degree. I think perhaps maybe those are conversations we can have.
And that-
If the parking lot needs to get done, then maybe it does. Maybe it's prorated over time. The bathroom certainly should get done. I've been asking to get them done for quite a while, but they're not, and we need to address that. Some of the other things, it's in the same vein, but to think that the budget would go up 2% after having shaved off bought the building in 2 years and still be relatively flush, I think that's probably not the approach I want to take. I want to look at it a little bit more austere. Okay? So thank you.
I'm gonna ask the clerk to help Sheriff Hutton get his thumb drive in the computer. The next portion of the Quality of Life Workshop is to have Sheriff Bill Hutton from Washington County share with you a little bit about our policing program here. One of the relationships I think staff enjoys the most is our relationship with the Washington County Sheriff's Department. Maybe, Bill, you can introduce Cherie and her role here as well, as we've got a very close relationship with our deputies, and I think really enjoy kind of a unique partnership. Having understood law enforcement for about 20 years, most sheriffs approach it based on road miles and jails, and you have a sheriff that really does community policing, which is kind of unheard of at the county level, at least from my perspective. So I've really enjoyed our relationship with the sheriff's office, and it looks like you got that up there for you pretty quickly, Sheriff.
Yep.
You have to share at the very end for this council the missing children story that I think is just credit to your officers. So that made my day one day. So here's Sheriff Hutton.
Well, Mr. Hutton.
Now, how do I advance here?
Just right-click the mouse.
Oh,
I
another
got it.
computer guy.
Yeah, like you.
Exactly.
Real computer-oriented, right. All right, good evening. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. We're going to deal with the organizational overview, because most people think they see a squad car, and that's what the Sheriff's Office is about. We're not. We're much more involved, much more complex organization, if you will. Also, we'll address our mission, vision, and guiding principles, our accomplishments and services from 13. Our overall statistics, meaning the areas that the Washington County Sheriff's Office is responsible for. As you know, we have a sheriff that is responsible for the entire county. However, individual cities, and I'll get to that at the very end, can choose to have their own police departments as well. And we have 9 of those within the county. There's 31 cities and townships within the county. Then we'll get into some more specificity to Lake Elmo, and also 2014, what it will bring to us. This is the Washington County organizational chart. We are 240 FTE strong, so we have 240 full-time individuals within the Sheriff's Office, and about another 120 to 140 volunteers. So volunteers are fantastic. I like what you were saying, Mr. Mayor, about the volunteers within the library system. We're doing anywhere between 12, 14, 16,000 hours a year in volunteerism within the Washington County Sheriff's Office as well. As you can see here, we're divided into 5 separate divisions within the Sheriff's Office, and I'll touch on them rather quickly as I move forward here, hopefully get you a little bit back on time-stamped here. These are our divisions. We have an administrative division, which is basically run by the chief deputy and I, and excuse me, forgot to introduce Commander Dexter. Commander Dexter, who has a lot of contact with your administrator with regard, she runs the patrol division, which is a significant part of what we deal with within Lake Elmo as well. Cherie's other responsibility tonight is to answer the hard questions by saying what the sheriff really meant to say is, we have the Special Services Division. So many of the things that I'm going to address tonight with you as well, statutorily required. So there are some things that are not statutorily required, like contracting with individual cities. But there are many things that your sheriff does that is statutorily required. So we have to have a records division, we have to have a communications division, emergency management, civil process, court security. These are all things that the statute says you will do. So the statute, Minnesota statute says you will have court security. and it's the sheriff's responsibility to provide that. So there are many things within that division that are required by statute. We have a jail division. It's a monster. The current budget for the Washington County Sheriff's Office in 2014 is about $28 million. $10 million of that is the jail. We house up to a maximum of 228 prisoners. So, as you can imagine, we have to do everything for those individuals from the moment they walk in our jail until the moment they leave. So if there's a significant or catastrophic medical problem, that is tax levy dollars. If the individual does not have separate insurance, it's a responsibility of the county to make sure that is met. So if an individual comes in and has a heart attack, we get the person out of the jail to regions, but if they don't have that medical insurance, that is the responsibility of county tax dollars to make sure that is taken care of. We have to clothe them, we have to feed them, we have to provide programming. Many of these rules, again, are statutorily driven. They're called 2911 rules that are set upon us by the Department of Corrections. We also have a juvenile detention area. We have jail programs, again, statutorily required, and transports. If we have an individual up in Coaching County that we want for a first-degree burglary, we got to go get them. So I have to have a transport division as well to head up there and get them. And likewise, that's the same for every county within Minnesota, the 87 counties. We have a patrol division, again, is what most people recognize the sheriff's office is patrol cars driving through your community. Again, it's contracts. Cherie also has purview over our range, which is our firearms, crime prevention, DARE, canine, water parks and trails, some pretty significant, things. And we also have an investigation division. And again, I'll hit on these things as I move forward a little bit more in depth. The mission of the Sheriff's Office, as you can read there, and the vision. So we spend time at that, and hopefully, in your eyes, as a community, we are meeting that mission and vision. We have our guiding principles as well, which is our ethics, integrity, professionalism, quality service, adaptability, change, and recruitment and development. As you can imagine, with an organization of 240 people, that is important to us, meaning recruitment and development of the personnel we have within our organization. Our accomplishments in 2013 is Lexipol. Doesn't mean too much to you right now on the surface, but the reality, this is our policies. We are on a system of policies with the other 86 sheriffs within Washington County that drives our policy within the sheriff's office. So we make sure that they are up to date and they are reviewed twice a year, which is pretty unusual for an organization, but our policies are reviewed twice a year and they are statutorily met, meaning they are within statute. We also put together an SI unit, which is a specialized investigation unit. This is the immediate response to a problem. This is, I can't believe this happened in my community, and we get the individuals within the specialized investigation unit to attack it immediately. So if we have a problem property, or if we have a problem house, or we have an apartment complex, if you will, that we think that there's significant issues happening in there, we have our SIU people involved. Our other accomplishment is Facebook. Check us out, like us, take the time. We also have MRIC, which is the Metro Regional Information Collaborative. Myself with other 6 sheriffs, I've put an analyst into one area because we all have separate records management systems. So we don't necessarily know what everyone is doing. So this way, we need to police smarter. And this helps us police smarter. So we know what's happening within our communities. If we have an individual that commits a robbery in Lake Elmo, chances are that individual did not just commit his or her first robbery, and it just didn't happen to fall in Lake Elmo. That this individual is an active robbery individual, and so we want to make sure that we're exchanging the information so we can identify, and we got tons of success stories. One of the better ones we have is, remember the female bank robber that was happening all through Minnesota and Wisconsin? Well, your very own Washington County Sheriff's Office is the one that solved that one, and we did it through analytics. The person that was our analyst at the time did a fantastic job. We have our drug take-back program. In 2013, we took back 4,300 pounds of unused medications and prescription medications. That's over 2 tons through 3 separate take-back bins that we have. One at the Sheriff's Office, one at the North Service Center, which is in Forest Lake, and the other down at Cottage Grove at the South Service Center. And then, which falls in the philosophy, I'll get to a little bit here.
What
is
does
our
that mean?
DEA, TDA, or
Well,
TDS.
what, Mr. Houghton, what does that mean, Doug?
Expired.
So just, all the people come and
Haven't
drop off
used
their
it.
old.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Yeah, what happens is we advertise this on a regular basis, and it's on our website, and it's also on our Facebook, that if you're not using your medications, I put it to you this way, and I'll get to this in a little bit longer, but don't raise your hand and don't say anything, but think of your medicine cabinet and what does not need to be there. And then what is other individuals may have their hands on because it's in your medicine cabinet, and they don't need to have it. So when we say that, light bulb goes off in a lot of people's brain, and they then bring in those unused medications. And I'll give a little bit of a story as I move forward on that. Oh, excuse me. And then this also falls within our philosophy of, we also have an individual assigned to the DEA task force on Tactical Diversion Squad. This squad identifies individuals who illegally obtain and/or sell prescription medications over the internet, or they also identify doctors who overly prescribe because it's a huge problem. And I'll describe that in a little bit as soon as I find out where I'm at. Also, services that we have is Code Red, which was actually was driven by the city of Lake Elmo a couple of years ago. So it was a great success. Code Red has been fantastic for us. We also have the Project Safety Net, which is a little bit what we're talking about. This is for individuals, young people whom are or that are vulnerable, or elders whom are vulnerable that may take off. And they don't know any better, and so we have a program where they can have a bracelet so we can locate them quicker and without a lot of other things happening. Again, I already talked about volunteers and crime prevention, which is a big part of our organization as well, because it's everybody's responsibility, just not the sheriff's office. Now to get into a few stats. This is Part 1 crimes. Again, these are the areas that the Washington County Sheriff is responsible for, not the other cities that have their own police departments. So this is kind of a mix of that. As you can see, Part 1 crimes are the homicides, the robberies, the burglaries. There's 7 of them, and they are the, oh my God, that really happened? Kind of crimes that set you back, that you read in the paper. Those are the major things. This is a good thing. We've gone down significantly with that. Since 2007, we've gone down, as a county, 21%. So, which is fantastic. Part 2 crimes, as you can see, we've gone down as well from 11 and 12 into 13. These are the quality of life issues. These are the ones where people are stealing mail, knocking down your mailbox, creating criminal damage to property, shoplifting, those type events. Those are the quality of life issues that we all see on a regular basis. When we talk about ICRs, these are initial complaint reports. So if you call in because there's a barking dog in your neighborhood, it gets a case number. So we can track that. We can find out what we did, how well we didn't do with that case. If there's a homicide that occurs, it too gets a case number. So every event, every call for service that we do generates a case number, so we can track those. And as you can see, we're staying pretty consistent, a little blip here, a little blip there, in our case numbers as well. Here are our citations. Our citations have gone down, so as you can see, those type of events statistically have gone down, meaning Part 1 crimes, Part 2 crimes, citations, they've all gone down a little bit. I have a few theories on why our citations go down. Not to what I'm going to get into right now. Civil process, this is also responsibility of the sheriff's office, is when an individual comes in and papers need to be served, whether at the local level or at different levels, the sheriff's office has responsibility to make sure that happens. These would be, a great example would be foreclosures, or harassment orders, or order for protections. So we have to serve individuals civilly for that. So we have to track them down no matter where they are to make sure they get served. And here I mentioned foreclosures. Another great thing, our foreclosures are going down. I believe in 2010, or excuse me, 2010, the number was 1,200. So 1,240 something, so it was even higher in 10. These are the trends that we're dealing with within the sheriff's office. So it's every community within the county deals with similar trends. Mail thefts. And the reason for mail thefts is fraud, forgery, identity theft. For a number of reasons. Everything from trying to get money for drugs to just doing other frauds as getting more money. So there's lots of different things. Our computer, technology crimes. When I started in 1983 in law enforcement, none of this. Didn't have to worry about this. Now, pretty much every case that we investigate at some level involves technology, whether it's through your smartphone or your computer or whatever other means. We are looking at technology and dealing with technology from either a patrol perspective and or a investigative thing as well. Financial scams. These, I mean, unfortunately, these are happening. A couple of them that are out there right now. One in particular, someone will call up and say, Grandma, Grandpa, and they'll respond by saying, is that you, Johnny? Well, they didn't know that, and they said, yep, it's me, Johnny. I'm in Florida. I just got arrested for DUI. Can you send money? It's a grandparent scam. Maybe you've heard. We've had it on our Facebook. It's been in the paper. I think I'm plugging Facebook a little bit. But anyhow, so these are scams that are happening one after the other right now out there. Narcotics investigations, I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but our drugs of choice continue to be marijuana, cocaine, meth, and believe it or not, heroin is becoming one of the most prolific drugs that we're dealing with, prescription drugs and heroin right now. The first quarter of 2014, we had 6 overdoses, deaths, in Washington County related to heroin.
How old
Not
are
to
the
mention,
kids?
pardon me?
Kids?
Typically ages between 16 and 26. When I started so many years ago, when I was doing narcotics investigation and I came across, it was very rare to come across an individual with heroin, but it was a completely different demographic and completely different socioeconomic class that I dealt with many years ago when I was doing narcotics. Now it's across the board. Now it is every family system. It's just pretty incredible as to what we're seeing. And every individual whom is a heroin addict started off with prescription medication, and for the most part, it's from the medicine cabinet at their own house is how they started. So it goes something like this. They're at a party, somebody has prescription medication, they say try it, they try it, they start taking it more and more, they go to their own medicine cabinet, and then that dries up, and they go to another friend's medicine cabinet, and then that dries up, the addiction is formed, their addiction becomes greater and greater, and before you know it, it's cheaper to buy heroin than it is to buy the prescription medication on the street. And every individual that we arrest for heroin, every investigation that we have regarding heroin is the same story. Again, this is the sad story of narcotics, and we do have a narcotics task force, which is made up of 3 Washington County deputies, an officer from Forest Lake, Woodbury, and Cottage Grove, and also an analyst from the National Guard. So we are attacking this. We also have, as I mentioned before, an individual on the DEA task force as well. So as you can see, our numbers are going up in narcotics, pretty much related to heroin and prescription medications. This is another responsibility that your sheriff has, is to issue permits to carry. As you can see, from 2009, the law came into effect in 2003. Each year, pretty much, it's gone up, and now we're at 3,417 last year of permits to carry applications to the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Now keep in mind, those are 3,417 new ones. I have the responsibility going back 5 years, so when this 2009 person, every year we have to do a background on all those. So you're talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 10,000 individuals. Annually, we have to check on them.
They get that renewed every year?
No, it's a 5-year permit,
Oh.
but the sheriff's responsibility by statute is to review their permit annually to determine whether or not they did something that would prohibit them from having it, if we need to void it, get it back, whatever. So if you're arrested for domestic violence or if you're in order for protection, that's an automatic disqualifier you from having a permit. Even if you've had it since 2010, we have to get it from you. And the sheriff is the only one in the county that can issue a permit to carry. If you're from Wisconsin, you can go to any county in Minnesota to get a permit to carry. So where do you think lots of people go? To Washington County. Yep. And also, there's also permit to purchase, which is separate. And you can go to your local police department, and since we, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, is your local police department, they come to the Washington County Sheriff's Office for that application. Come on. Here are the deputies that are in your contract: Deputy Stoffel, Kading, Crook, Lindholm, and Lohr. And again, this is one of those tough questions that Commander Dexter saw, and she says, "You forgot one." So Deputy Ostertag is on that as well. So sorry about that, I forgot Darren. Now here's some data that we brought over from what Washington County as a whole. So I've already explained what Part 1, Part 2 crimes are. These is more specific to the city of Lake Elmo. So as you can see, again, the bar in the green, as you can see, it went down, which is good. I think that's about 13% decline over the last year in Part 1 crimes. And you can see on the right there, obviously, what those crimes equate to. And I can forward this to Dean, to Mrs. Zuliger, and then
Thanks.
you can get it all. Again, this is the quality of life issues that we're talking about, and I think that equates to about a 17% decline in Part 2 crimes, but as you can see where they all fall. And of course, other seems to be the largest category, and that's everything, you know, all the different statutes that don't fall into what's on the right. Citations as well have gone down. Again, as you saw across the board within Washington County, citations have gone down as well.
All right, what's one of your theories?
You know, there was a lot of things that was happening with the DVS and law enforcement's inappropriate use of DVS. And even though a great majority, Department of Vehicle Services lookups, even though a vast majority, 99% of law enforcement was using it appropriately, they got scared. And so they didn't want to use it, so they weren't getting as many contacts. Now keep in mind, these are only citations. Our current system does not allow for tracking of numbers of warning tickets because our responsibility is to educate the motoring public. It's just not to stop and cite everyone all the time. And I'll be right up with you right now. That is not my philosophy, to cite somebody every time. My philosophy is to educate people. And so we're not tracking the warnings, and we're not tracking the, come on, really, slow down, speed kills. Now, when I mean warnings, I'm talking about written warnings. And then there's also the verbal warnings as well. I stop people on a regular basis. I don't carry a tag book with me. If somebody needs to get a citation, I have to call somebody like Cherie to give me a hand. So they get the verbal warning or a written warning from me. But I will call a deputy to come and issue a hard copy or a citation as well. But again, our deputies are stopping folks and educating. You know, where's your seatbelt? Slow down. You're in a school area. I mean, all the different things that how we deal with it.
Thanks.
Again, as I talked before, initial complaint reports is an event. We're called to an event, we get a number that goes with that event. So this is, it was down a little bit in 11, went up in 12, down a little bit in 13 again. And again, this is going to happen. I mean, we see this throughout the county and every city, the ups and downs. It's just the nature of the business. Underage consumptions, I would like to put this up there because, well, typically I, get a lot of questions about this, not a lot, some questions about this as well. And as you can see, our underage consumptions, 18 to 21, was down a little bit, but our minor consumptions under 18 were up. We just had a party in Stillwater Township a couple of weeks ago where we issued 20-some citations to underage kids. So this can fluctuate from one party to individual contacts. Motor vehicle accidents, this is also often a question. As you can see, in 13, our other is way up. There's a lot of deer in Lake Elmo. Yeah,
I just hit one,
there you got a number.
right on Highway 5.
Yep, so there's a lot of deer, and this is what happens. People hit a lot of deer in Lake Elmo. And then our property accidents, and that number is also individual backs into a pole. It's a single car accident, less than $1,000 worth of damage. So there's lots of other things other than just turkeys, raccoons, deer, kind of thing as well. DUIs and other traffic would be driving without a driver's license, driving canceled, driving suspended, driving revoked. Those are the things as well. So our DUIs are staying a little consistent there. They were up in 11. We run projects on a regular basis towards zero death, TZD we call it. And so we partner with every city within Washington County but one. And we go out and we do traffic saturations for DUI and seatbelts. And our goal is towards zero death. So we try to obtain that always. And we partner with the State Patrol on a regular basis. Some of the things looking forward in 14, we are in the midst of a new records management system within Washington County. Currently, we are working on a legacy system that was developed in 1988. It has served our purposes, but now we're getting into the 21st century. The new system we're excited about. We can't wait till it gets here. As a matter of fact, it should have been here long ago. But if anybody's familiar with IT projects, that's how they go. But that's everything it's going to be able to do. It's going to be able to provide analytics. So anybody in Lake Elmo, once we're online, will be able to go to our website or your website through the city and click on to find out the public information regarding criminal activity and or calls for service in a particular area. So, and again, that's the public information. We as the Sheriff's Office will have the analytics that go with it to be able to help us police smarter. And we're going to be collecting far more information with this new records management system than we ever did with our current system. So there's lots more out there for us to become aware of and be able to police smarter.
Sheriff Hutton, so are what you're saying is, I mean, I get a report every so often with citations or really a list of addresses and, basically what it was, what happened. Maybe every 3 months I get a list of this. Are you saying that now I can access that myself online, or will be able to? Anyone, any of my neighbors can go in and say, oh, what's going on, in this area, and what do I have to be looking out for? It's going to be the click of a button?
That's exactly what I'm saying. The information that you get is public data. And so there, as you are aware, there's lots of folks that public data is public data and they want it out there. So we are developing our rules for that with the advice from our legal folks, and that information will be available.
Wow.
Sir, is this the same as like Blaine has or City of St. Paul?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what it is. Matter of fact, I believe St. Paul is going to Bear Analytics. I don't know what Blaine has, but Bear Analytics is one of the premier analytics tools out there. So
does that mean, Sheriff Hutton, that people can, watch their own neighborhoods or their own communities, and when they feel that something isn't right, is this going to help you to get more, I don't want to say complaints, but people who are watching saying, something's just not right in my neighborhood, or something's just not right down on this street? I mean, is this going to bring more information to you to make your job easier? Is that?
we want all that information now. You're right. I always say this, we are only as good as we are when we're there. and we can't be everywhere all the time.
Right.
So when that information, when something suspicious is seen, call us, call 911.
Right.
You know, it used to be back in the day, you know, when you watch 1 Adam 12, or maybe I'm aging myself. This is the third time I've aged myself. You watch 1 Adam 12 or emergency 911, that you only called 911 when it's an absolute emergency, like, you know, like death. The same people that pick up that phone for a non-emergency line are the same people that pick it up for the emergency line. It's okay to call 911. We get about 220, just between 200 and 220,000 calls a year. And about 70,000 of those come in on the 911 line. And about 70% of those come in off of cell phones. There's lots of folks out there that no longer have a home phone or a landline. They do everything from cell phone. I'm one of them. I do not have a landline. I only work, my wife and I have cell phones, and that's how we operate. And there's a growing number of folks that do that. And so you can only imagine, great segue, next gen 911, you can only imagine the complexity that we have up in our communication center with individuals calling 911, and they can either they can or may not be able to communicate. So how do we find them? And most all our most all our smartphones, all smartphones and most all cell phones have that GPS tracking. So we get a lot of calls that people cannot communicate or accidentally call, and we just can't say, we think it's an accident, let it go. We have to follow up on that, and so that's what we do. We do follow up on it, and we send individuals by longitude and latitude. It's the close, they're within 4 meters of XYZ, and that's what Next Gen is bringing us. And you can only imagine, what do most people do nowadays? They text, right? So we are a beta group through our communication services to get to this where we can accept video and text. Most people think they can just text 911. Well, right now, there isn't agencies or communication centers that are able to accept that. And again, social media,
Kids don't wanna-
Facebook, look at that, there it is again. And also, we're going to be moving towards Twitter, and we will have our own app as well. So we're trying to be as accessible as possible to the community. I thought I'd put this up there. I think Marge talked about the deal that the library is. Those are the communities within Washington County have their own police departments. We obtained that information, as you can see, from their city websites or adopted budgets from staff. And we also got the population through the U.S. Bureau Census, or Census Bureau. So if you can look on the far right, that is the cost per capita for police services for those particular communities. And again, those are the communities that have police services within Washington County. All right, this is not a scientific study, but pretty darn close, okay? The next slide is the communities in which Washington County Sheriff's Office contracts police services for. And everybody's looking for Lake Elmo real quick. $61.68 is the estimated police contract service for the city of Lake Elmo in 2014, which, as Mr. Mayor, you described earlier, $500,000. The next lowest is Woodbury at $140 per capita. So, I like the library, kind of
You're
think you're
bringing it
getting a heck of a deal.
Why would it sound
Seems
like
high,
Oak
but
Park
who's
Heights
gonna-
pays 270? That just seems outrageous. To have their own police department, it
Who said that?
seems,
Who said that? What did you say?
if you go back to Oak Park
okay.
Heights,
I
their
got you.
population's 4,000, it just seems insane at $270.87.
They've got all the retail.
Yeah.
They have a lot of commercial businesses, and what I will tell you, I'll even flip back here. Even if you look up here, the city of Grant, $28.10. So I would suspect as a council, you're thinking, whoa, heck of a deal, why can't I get that?
Who we got negotiating?
Yeah, let's do some negotiation, right, Mr. Mayor? Each community is different. The city of Grant is a far different community than the city of Lake Elmo. City of Scandia is a far different community than as well. So you have to look at the communities, the types of calls for service, and also the demands of the community themselves. The city of Lake Elmo has 24/7 coverage because of our unique partnership that we have with the city of Landfall. So you have a 24/7 coverage. Before we had the city of Landfall, there wasn't a dedicated deputy 24/7 to the city of Landfall, or excuse me, the city of Lake Elmo. But because of that unique relationship that we have, now we didn't mix contracts. So we didn't mix the contract in, but we mixed personnel in, which is a pretty unique relationship. And it was a win for the city of Lake Elmo, it was a win for the city of Landfall, and it was a win for the sheriff's office as well. So it was a win for everybody that was involved in this. And then we combined contracts with the city of Matamidi, Delwood, Willerny, Birchwood. So those 4 communities is a 24/7 contract as well. And as you can see, their cost per capita is very similar. The cities of Afton, Lakeland, St. Croix Beach, St. Mary's, and Lakeland Shores is a single contract as well, so we combine those services. In the city of Hugo, a larger community as well. And I mean, the city of Hugo and the city of Lake Elmo are probably our 2 fastest growing cities. We are having conversations with the city of Hugo is expanding that contract because they are growing so much. And so they're 24/7. Matter of fact, we have a sergeant, similarly as you do with Sergeant Halverson, who is your contact person. We have a sergeant who is 40 hours a week just in the city of Hugo because it's such a demand for service up there.
Where's Forest Lake?
Forest Lake
They have their
is,
own police department?
they have their own police department.
Okay,
They are
so they're
back
back.
here at 198. Again, not a scientific study. This is based on phone calls made to find out what their public safety budget is. Some of these people, like some gave us information that included capital, and some gave us information that may include depreciation, and some just gave us their raw budget. Because it was difficult to compare apples to apples completely. Any questions?
Well, I might take one, just because you talked about the growth and whatnot. I believe you're in contact with staff and Mr. Zuliger and talking about what Lake Elmo will be going through, our growth phase, and how the sheriff will deal with it. Do you see any projections on that yet, or is it too soon to tell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I do. And I want to give a shout out to your administrator. We are in constant contact, either through myself or with the commander as well, or even with Sarah as well. So we're always got great communication. We got good things happening. We have very similar philosophies as to how we want to see things get done. When a significant event occurs within your town, our first call, once we contain or get it somewhat contained, is to your administrator as well, so he's aware of what's happening. And to the second part of your main part of your question, yes, we're gonna need to have conversations because he has shared with us the many different projects that are coming into the community. And so there is going to be more of a demand for service. So we have, in our field is pretty much dedicated and undedicated time. Dedicated time is call for service. We're always busy. They're always doing something. Undedicated time gives them opportunity to look in different areas to do special checks, those type things. As that number shrinks, that's when we need to start, and that number is beginning to shrink, but that's when we start looking at, okay, now we need to have more conversation to find out how we increase that service so that dedicated time levels out.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Smith?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, back when you had the drug slide up, this is very disturbing to me. I live across from the high school, and, you know, we have a large high school, and when you say that the heroin use that it's the, you know, it could be any parent, any socioeconomic status, 16 to 26. I mean, I'm 50. I'm looking back when I heard of what heroin was in the 70s, and that was not the demographic, you know. So it's scary. And my question would be, because I have this discussion with my husband all the time, having young children, 10, 12, and 14, coming up and having access to this kind of stuff. Is the prescription drug then considered the gateway drug to this horrible heroin issue that we are dealing with? Or-
Absolutely.
Okay, because we have this argument over, is it marijuana or is it, what is it? What is it that gets these kids to that point? I hear stories and, bowls of prescription pills and let's just take a handful, who cares what it is? And that's scary to me. And so how do you make, and what do you do to make those kids aware of the risk? Because that's,
First off, welcome to my world.
yeah,
And second off, you're right on. We have great partnerships. One of the partnerships you're going to be hearing from real soon is from the Youth Service Bureau. So we have great partnerships. So when we do have contacts with young folks, we make sure that we get them to the appropriate services when we can. So again, it's not always sending somebody to court. It's not always sending somebody to the criminal justice system. There's also other services that are out there that are resources for people like yourself and or any other parent. When you say, whoa, what's going on here? What do I need to do? There are resources out there. So we're trying to have a holistic approach to it. Again, we are connected at the hip often with the YSB. So when we come across somebody whom we think is, their first time out there, their first time getting involved with something, we're referring them right off to the Youth Service Bureau. We're having our contact with them. We're doing our intervention. We're meeting with the parents. We're trying to educate the parents that way as well. But we also know that we can't do it alone. Like I said at the very beginning, and what what you also pointed out, that website as well. We can't do it alone. So it has to be an approach from every angle.
but I find it interesting, and I think this is something that, should be out there for all parents and all people, really in general, because everyone says, oh, marijuana is the gateway drug. If your kid is doing this or smoking cigarettes, the next thing is marijuana. We have it all sitting in our own medicine chest. That's more accessible than anything else. I think there has to be that message. Get this stuff out. Toss it out. Throw it away. The stuff you don't use or you may have used because you had this, your kids are looking.
Yep.
at
I want to
that
bring
stuff.
you with
I
me.
wouldn't have thought that.
I want to
would have
bring you with me
never-
when I talk to the other communities. You can stand next to me and you can lay it out there for me, but you're right on. 4,300 pounds. Not 43 pounds, not 430 pounds, 4,300 pounds. And, and back in the day, folks would be flushing it down the toilet or something like that. Do not do that. Bring it to us. We dispose of it properly.
Right. You can't do that,
Right.
actually. You're not supposed to.
You're not
anyway.
supposed to, let's put it that way.
It's just, to me, that's just extremely interesting, and the age, and that it's at your back door, and you don't even know it. It's just scary.
Well, I think that's actually a great segue to our friend Mary Plant and Kel from the Youth Services Bureau.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for
And Bill,
coming. I
what
appreciate all you guys
is Bill?
do.
You still serve on the board? Of
Yes, sir, I
what-
do. So that's the full disclosure as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I am on the board, have been. I've been connected to the Youth Service Bureau. My background, I started in '79, actually, at the Youth Service Bureau in Forest Lake. And then I became the director and then got into law enforcement.
Well, thanks much for all you and your
great.
people do. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commander Dexter, thank you.
Council might remember that we had the Youth Services Bureau here last year. Ms. Kell was here last year and kind of shared with you the statistics of Lake Elmo. We made a $5,000 contribution. We were one of the few communities that hadn't been a partner with the Youth Services Bureau. Since we're getting ready for budget preparation and Mary's hoping that we can continue to participate with them, we thought we'd have her come in here and follow right after the sheriff. Because I knew the sheriff was going to talk about the narcotics problem, because you might have read what I think is one of the better things I've seen, where he and the county attorney and the police chief in Woodbury finally said enough's enough, we're going to charge you for this stuff. With the recent death in Woodbury, I commend you guys for that, because that's the kind of hardline stuff that's got to happen out there. Mary's going to kind of share with you what goes on and bring you up to date on our statistics with Lake Elmo kids. And then we'll move to Family Means, which is another prevention step, and my buddies are all here from Family Means. And then we've got the housing project. So we'll try to do these little vignettes to kind of have you see what I would consider to be kind of the not visible support that a lot of these agencies give to our kids and our families. So, Mary, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Mary Plantenkrell. We met last year. I'm still the Executive Director at the Youth Service Bureau. I'm very happy to be here when I got the call from Dean about talking about the Youth Service Bureau a little bit, and specifically to talk about not only what's going on in the East Metro area, but more specifically what we're doing with your kids right here in Lake Elmo. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, our mission is to help youth and their families learn the skills they need to be more successful at home, in school, and throughout their community. It's been about 40 years since the Youth Service Bureau has been working to change the behavior of youth, and to do that work sooner rather than later. The Youth Service Bureau was formed in 1976 to provide law enforcement with a way to hold youth accountable for their actions without sending them through the traditional juvenile justice system or labeling them as delinquents. This process became known as diversion and has become the standard practice for most law enforcement departments. The reason really is simple. First, it's much cheaper than court, and secondly, and more importantly, it's much more effective in getting kids back on track. Most police departments contract for these services because, one, they don't have the time or the resources to dedicate specifically to really young offenders. Secondly, the Youth Service Bureau has staff who are specially trained to work with teens and their parents to change their behavior. Third, the Youth Service Bureau has a large, substantial network of community connections to provide community work service options to kids as part of their diversion program. And finally, by working with us, all of your residents in Lake Elmo can be assured they will have easy access to other services such as youth-focused family counseling, educational programs, or chemical health services. When we refer to diversion services, we refer to a menu that can include all or some of the following activities. One is a general assessment, which is simply getting to know a family and a youth who are having some trouble and finding out what's going on with them. We provide educational programs for youth and their parents. We provide community work service options to get kids into a place where they can make amends for some of their behavior and can also learn something new about their community. We have a special program that focuses on alcohol and drug use called Teen Intervene. And finally, we do a lot of restorative justice conferences, which are opportunities to get kids together with people that they've harmed or created problems for and talk about the impact of their behavior and learn from it. Besides these diversion services, youth and families can also access counseling or chemical health services in each of our 3 locations in the county, as well as in the area schools. In fact, we have a full-time person here in District 834 who works with kids directly in school. So how do these programs benefit youth here in Lake Elmo? Each year, we work with the Youth Service Bureau with approximately 1,500 youth and their families. Over the last 2 years, the demand for our services has increased in this community. Since 2011, we've seen a 44% increase in referrals and a 34% increase in the number of services that we've provided. In 2013, we provided 192 services to youth and families in the community of Lake Elmo. Referrals from school staff between 2012 and 2013 increased by 47%. Of those, 13 families participated in counseling services. 81 participated in what we call early intervention programs like chemical and tobacco awareness programs. 54% received chemical health support, a 20% increase over the same time the previous year. And 44% participated in the alternative to suspension program. So you might be asking yourself, so who are these people? Who are we really serving? It may come as somewhat of a surprise that most of the families we serve are not low income. Of course, we don't turn families away based on family income or insurance eligibility, and we're proud to have a sliding fee scale for the small percentage of families who need it. But by and large, the issues that kids are facing are not related to their economic status. We're also proud of our ability to provide quality services while maintaining low management and overhead expenses. 85% of our spending goes directly to program costs, which is considered very low for among nonprofits. So how do we fund all of this? The real bottom line question. At the Youth Service Bureau, we know that kids don't get in trouble just where they live. And we know that behavioral changes occur at all levels of family income. That's why we strive to create a balanced funding structure where everyone shares responsibility for making our communities safer and where services are available regardless of ability to pay. YSB intentionally receives funding from a number of different sources, including public funding at the state, county, and municipal level, like Lake Elmo, through client fees, including insurance reimbursement and sliding fee payments that clients make, and through donor contributions, the local United Way, and other foundations and community support. Research shows that, in fact, we had a study done at the Wilder Foundation, and that research showed that for every dollar invested in early intervention services like we provide, communities save on average $8 in future social costs associated with things like adult crime and social service needs. So it's obviously a terrific investment. And I think the best part of the whole story here is that we know that our programs work. They benefit the community by helping youth learn decision-making and problem-solving skills that keep them out of trouble and improve their school performance. Through our programs, families become stronger and youth feel more engaged and accountable to their communities. In fact, the data that we have shows us that 6 out of 10 kids who participate in our chemical health, that is our drug programs, increase their resilience to drugs. 7 out of 10 kids who receive counseling with us resolve their issues. And 9 out of 10 kids who participate in our diversion programs for the first time don't offend again. Those are the kids that Sheriff Hutton is talking about who are picked up for minor offenses, first time, sent to us as opposed to going through court. And we can ensure that actually the number is 91% do not reoffend again. By supporting the Youth Service Bureau, you support youth and families in a cost-effective way, and in return, we support as many residents in Lake Elmo as need our support, whether that's 0 or that's 1,000. And finally, I'd like to thank you for your support in 2013, which was the first year that we had support from Lake Elmo, and I was naturally overjoyed by that. And we're hoping that you'll continue to support these efforts. I'd be happy to answer questions, and Sheriff Hutton can also answer them as well, if you have any questions.
Well, it sounds like a successful program, just like we thought it was last year.
And we will be, staff will be bringing this to you in your budget in July, so.
I'm sure we'll be happy to partner with you again. It's
Wonderful.
a good thing. Sure got a good referral back there, so. But yeah, we're happy for what you do, and
Great.
thank you.
Great.
Sounds like a great program.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Great.
Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Mayor, one of my favorite programs, it's my favorite program, and I have a favorite program, and that is, when I was in my previous community, I worked very closely with the Boys and Girls Club of America on after-school programs, Power Hour, Keystone, some of the, or Keystone, Cornerstone kind of programs that helped kids, with homework and developmental issues. And we've got a very quiet but very effective program at Cimarron, run by Family Means. Jennifer Schneider and my buddies from Cimarron are here tonight to kind of share with you what's going on out in this program and some exciting things that are going to happen in the future. Arbadella Beck could not be here tonight, but she sent the capable Jennifer Schneider, who we all know, to kind of share a little bit of what's going on with our Family Means Cimarron program, a program that Mayor Pearson and I helped with in terms of working with the owners of Cimarron to provide some land and some space for what I think is going to be a nice future out there. And Bethany says, hi, guys. I will tell you that my daughter's experience in the summer working with these guys 2 summers ago made her specialize in working with at-risk kids. That's what she does. That's what she wants to do. And it's largely because she worked with these 2 gals and the folks at Cimarron to help those kids kind of get along in life. So they've got a special place in my heart, and Jen, the floor is yours, so.
I'm guessing that all of you have seen the drawings of the building that we'll be breaking ground on finally in the fall, but we brought them just in case.
You want me to hold them while you talk
It's
about
helpful
them?
to
I'd like to
see.
see them.
I thought I would just give a few minutes background to remind you what we do and what our project is about, and then I'll turn it over to Katie and Jamie to talk more specifically about the programs at Cimarron. Years ago now, 3 years ago, I think now, we decided we needed a bigger space for our youth programs in Cimarron. Right now, about 154 kids visit the youth programs, and for a total of about 5,000 visits per year. And it's about half the kids who live there, so really, we can do a lot more work. But we have 450 square feet, and it gets really crowded. We have a younger kid section as well as a teen section. So we set out to make a plan and receive approval to build this building, and it's finally coming into fruition. We've raised all but about $150,000 of the $1.2 million budget that we have for the building. We plan to break ground in September. We're just beginning the public phase of our campaign, and we've received almost unanimous support from the foundations that we've approached, and we have a great matching grant this summer. So I'm fully confident that we'll be successful in reaching our goal. So to back up a little bit, we've been in Landfall, the city of Landfall, doing youth programs for over 20 years now, and it's a model that works really well, and we've seen a lot of success with. 6 years ago, we started here, and it's just grown and become more successful every year. That being said, I'll let you two tell them a little bit about what kind of work is actually being done after school and over the summer. And I'm not going to go into the financials of the agency or anything at this point, but I did bring a couple of annual reports if you're curious to know what the overall budget for Family Means is.
Sure.
I've got it.
I would. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Well, just a little news update. Tonight we had our summer barbecue kickoff where we have kids re-register for the year. So I think Christian was the sack race tournament champion, and Daniela got the most wet at the water balloon fight. So a lot of hot dogs were consumed.
Yes.
And as Jen said, we are serving right now about about half of the 250 or so kindergarten through 12th grade youth that are in Cimarron. And so we have a mission, which is to equip youth to learn, thrive, connect, and contribute throughout their lives. And we do this through after-school programming during the school year, and then in the summer, we expand those programs a little bit, do field trips, and go outside kind of the normal hours that we would to be able to get kids in that middle of the day, nothing to do time, and really develop those youth for creating great connections, peer-to-peer connections, and also peer to adults, which is really important. You can never have too many positive adults in the young lives of our kids. So I work with the elementary age students, and what we do after school is we always have an activity of the day that they would take part in, and then they also get to choose their own activity if they want to do something self-directed. And that pretty much continues throughout the summer as well, but we do activities. Some of our activities are similar. I'll let Katie tell you a little bit about her activities, but we have dance and gymnastics, our other art programs like visual art, and we have someone that comes and teaches our kids dramatic arts. We have a partner that comes and teaches our kids about nutrition, making healthy snacks and healthy choices. And then kind of a variety of other programs that we bring in the summer. Soccer, we've done swim lessons, a lot of nature-based field trips, so we get out to Lake Elmo Park Reserve a lot. Our supervisor, who's the director of youth programs, his position's changed recently, so I have to get that right. He runs a bike program both in Cimarron and in Landfall, and that is his touchstone to still work with youth. And so he helps kids learn how to fix bikes, and they can earn a bike, and they can go on bike rides. And so we have lots of positive things that I think are hopefully, well, I think we've heard, that they're helping the community and then giving kids a positive
thing to do in their lives, so they're not turning to some things like drugs and other negative choices. So I'll let Katie talk to you about the teens.
Yes, and then we have the teen program, and that's the middle school, the high school, so typically 7th through 12th grade, more likely 7th through 10th grade. And we have a lot of similar programs through the school year and through the summer. We have dance and gymnastics, we have nutrition, we do some sewing and knitting and other crafts. One of the biggest things for teens to be able to do is apply for a garden job that's started. Last year was the first year we teamed up with Workforce to open up some jobs for kids in the community, which is a great way for kids that are a little bit younger, kids that don't have transportation yet, to get a job in their community, learning a skill that they can take on through their life. Building skills, plants, just a lot of skills that they take out of there. Doing a newsletter, so even more administrative, kind of typical job skills that they might get. We have expanded our programs in the summer like we do every summer. And for the teens, that means more nighttime events. We've heard some feedback from them that they want to be adults and they want to be more autonomous. And so we've added movie nights, pool parties after the community pool closes. They've developed such a rich relationship with us that they've given us some freedoms that they wouldn't normally do for residents. So they know if we're supervising, we do nighttime pool parties. Lock-ins have become a thing, a tradition now that we do every year, so they look forward to a lock-in at the end of the summer. In the past, we have done a lot of community service, which Jamie has also taken on as well. We do things like Feed My Starving Children every year. We've, with our sewing and knitting, made blankets to bring into the hospital for babies and new mothers. So just a lot of opportunities to get the kids to give back. I'll share with you, since we're looking forward to our new building, some feedback that I heard from seniors and they quit coming around the typical time, like that 9th, 10th grade year, and they said we needed more space because there's such a range in, you know, a children's program that goes from kindergarten to 6th grade, and then a teen program that goes from 12th grade to, or 7th grade to 12th grade rather. Those younger kids come in and they're really excited. Yay, I finally get to go to a pool party. I'm in the teen center, and they kind of spread out, and that pushes our seniors out a little bit. They still want to be there, they still want to be connected with us, but they kind of feel pushed out in our space right now. So we're really looking forward to having, you know, right now we have one big room. If you haven't been to see our program, they're basically one big room for the whole program.
So
and
big.
not so big.
It's a big one room,
I shouldn't use that word too liberally. And then we divide it with computers or shelving to try and make separate areas, but to have actual physical rooms and that are maybe the size of our room now, and have that in addition will just be a great way to keep kids around longer, to get them involved. We've been doing some stuff in the teen center around college, and this past year we helped 3 or 4 kids take the ACTs, so trying to get them around longer so they can have those opportunities, go on college visits. We've gotten scholarship opportunities for them, so just getting them to stick around longer so they can take advantage of that, and we can help guide them with those processes as well. So we're looking forward to that.
Something else I should add, last summer and this summer, we've partnered with the Department of Education to offer school lunch, or summer lunch, at that time when school lunches aren't available. I think something like 80% of our youth are in free and reduced school lunch, and so that's been really helpful to be able to get those kids eating at the middle of the day. The other thing I will add is that our programs are free for youth, and they are also drop-in, so they don't have to attend, but they are free, and as long as they have that parent permission, they're able to come in. So a lot of parents of younger children do use that as their child care, and certainly we've had a great partnership with Washington County Workforce because we are both part-time employees. And so, I mean, with the amount of kids that we have coming in, it's very challenging. And so it's been really great to empower the teenagers who are living in Cimarron to give them their first job through the Washington County Workforce Youth Program. And then we're able to help serve the other youth through their help. So that's been really neat.
Great. Council?
Good.
I just want to know how big the new building is. I know what 450 square feet looks like.
I think we each have about 450 square feet currently, and so we will each have 2,000.
It's
4 times the size that we have
Right.
now.
We've almost got 2,000 square feet versus 450.
Yeah,
That's a huge
Commercial
difference.
kitchen.
yeah.
Well, congratulations, that's really neat.
Yeah, we're lucky to
Great
have
work.
you. Yeah, it's, you guys do phenomenal work down there. It's, we're just lucky
Talk
that
to
you're here.
Principal Gordy, their work is helping those kids do well over at the elementary school too. So
Oh, I bet.
it carries through and articulates really nicely, so.
When will the building begin, or we don't know yet?
We hope to break ground, we plan to break ground in September, October at the latest,
Great.
and it will be approximately a 16-week project.
Cool.
So first quarter of next year, we should be in there.
Great.
And we do anticipate, you know, it's a lovely, spacious building compared to what we have, obviously, and we won't be in it every day, all day. And so we fully anticipate to work with other groups in the community to share our space, just like we do with family needs. So I think it'll be a nice community resource.
We've already
Well, it
had
has been.
requests for that. People are excited.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. We appreciate that you're here and all the work you do.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Mayor, the last group is a group here by request. Go Jennifer, you bet. So, there's a group of folks, and who's gonna speak for the group? As you know, we're gonna be putting a lot of housing. We have 1,100 houses in the drawing board one way or another. And we've got a group of folks that are very enthusiastic. Nick Johnson and I met with a couple of weeks ago to talk about kind of independent housing in Lake Elmo for folks that are exceptional or might need some housing options that they can't get otherwise. And one of the interesting things, and Councilmember Smith, this works right into your whole idea of providing a variety of housing for folks, is that a lot of these folks want their children or their relatives that might have an exception to live close to them. And so we've got some folks here today. I don't know if you have an official name of your group. I know it's through Community Thread. But some folks from the community here that want to kind of talk to you about being mindful about housing options as we go ahead and build out this community, especially in the downtown area. And I will just let them kind of go while I go say goodbye to the Family Means folks, so.
Before you speak, I think that this is something that the rest of the council, and clearly Susan Kane knows this because she came to every single meeting that we had when we did the Old Village Plan in 2007, and you were probably at a lot of them as well. But clearly the Kanes spent a lot of time with us because we had a dedicated number of units. We basically said somewhere in this Old Village Plan, we need to have a minimum of 24 housing units for children that can live on their own, but truly need to be close to their family, but want to have the opportunity to live on their own. And we called it life cycle housing at that time. I don't know what it's called now. I don't know what the group is calling it now, but I don't think the rest of the council knows that this is a proposal that is now 7 years old.
Correct.
And, right?
Right.
7 plus years we've been.
Relatively young.
It's
Lake Elmo.
relatively young, but we've been talking about this for a long time, and being the only council member who's left, I haven't forgot about this commitment that we made back then, and I want to make sure that we carry through on this commitment, because it's all about being a community, and that whole discussion has been had over and over and over again over the past, 7, 8 years? So with that said, this is not a new concept, is it?
No.
This is a concept that we discussed and wanted to bring forward, and have been very enthusiastic, I think, in those first 5 years until everything fell apart with the market.
Yeah,
So,
correct.
thank you
Yeah,
for
thank-
holding on to it, because
Thank
I
you.
remember.
Could I
Thank you,
get your name,
Councilmember
please?
Smith.
What was your name, please?
My name's Teresa Vanderbent. I currently work as a consultant for Washington County and Star Services. We're looking at independent housing options. Councilmember Smith remembers me from working at Two Rivers, and Susan, and looking at models for housing at that time. And she's right, it's been a 7-year conversation. So I look forward to being back here and having conversation again. There will be, a few of us will speak as we go on, and what I want to do is just tell you some of the shifts that have happened at the policy level. The reason why I'm working with the county as a consultant is because the state of Minnesota has come to the conclusion that it makes sense, both from the state level, county level, national level, to look at other housing options for people with intellectual, developmental, physical, and mental illness. They're saying, you know what? Why are we continuing to put people in adult foster care? Why aren't we instead looking at having them live by their families, their communities, have support services built around them, and allow them to be as independent as they possibly can with only the services they need to be able to live in their communities? So recently, the county was funded by the Department of Human Services to actually look at and create housing options for these Washington County residents. And I got lucky enough to be on the team that is going to be looking at doing that. And so it's being called Individualized Housing Options. It's for people in the community who are, have the opportunity to be a part of waivered services, which is just a form of payment for services. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with them to help them find housing and then wrap services around their individuals so that they can live in their communities. And so that's what we'll be working at doing. So I'm going to let these guys come up and talk a little bit about their next piece.
Well, the next slide says some pretty daunting statistics. Currently in Washington County, there's 7,000 children and adults living with IDD. And if you want to take that a little bit closer to home, Valley Friendship Club is a club out here that works with kids, children, teens, and young adults with developmental disabilities. And there's about 150 Stillwater students. 90% of our membership are Stillwater students. And then if you want to take it just a little bit closer to home, I live in the Fields of St. Croix. We have 5 people that will need this housing. We have 2 adults, 2 young adults living in the Fields of St. Croix, phase 2. This is just phase 2. We have my daughter, who's a teenager, she's 19. She'll be wanting to move out eventually. We have another teen, and we have an elementary school. So statistically, even Lake Elmo is running at a 3% population of people with IDD. So we really need to, work to better the community for everyone. And Chris and Monique, they have a son, and you want to speak to that?
I can't believe Hannah's 19.
I know, isn't it amazing?
No, that's crazy.
Graduated.
That's crazy.
Hello.
Hello.
Your name, sir?
My name is Chris Kolb. I'm a 22-year resident of this wonderful city of Lake Elmo. My son is about that age as well, 22 years, and he was born very small, about a pound, and he proceeded to be diagnosed with autism. And so he's had services here in the county and is a resident, obviously, of Lake Elmo, and he goes to the library, and the sheriff came out, and, well, not that particular sheriff, but the sheriff came out and made sure that he was well looked for in case he decided to run off or whatever, so he's always been included in the community. But what I wanted to say is that I think it's important to, because he lives here and because he's now getting to that age where we have to find a place where he can live close by, because he does need supervision, but he doesn't, he doesn't need 24-hour supervision, but he's got to have people there to keep an eye on him and that kind of thing. And being close to that would be very important to us. And so I just wanted to, hopefully you can see it in your heart to make this happen. So that's all I want to say.
Keep it going.
Yeah. One of the things you didn't mention, when we first moved out here, the mayor, or just shortly after, the mayor had a son with a developmental disability. His son couldn't find housing. He had to be placed in Minneapolis. And so as a result, they all had to move out.
Which
Could
mayor
I-
was that?
What is it that, just bear with me, what is it exactly that we're talking about? I mean, providing or doing, or just, I'm not, if you would.
I'll do it when we get to
Okay.
the slide. I'll talk to you about
Okay.
what models we could use.
The wind John is.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his son had to move to Minneapolis.
There's just nothing around.
No. Well, you heard about the autistic.
We gotta, if somebody wants to speak, we should go up to the podium. Well, I mean,
Who's our next speaker?
if anybody's watching it,
I can talk a little bit. My name is Bo Carlin. I work at Fairview Motors for 2.5 years. which is you guys probably know where it is. It's hard for me to get to work from Mamilai, and I can't drive. I gotta think for a minute. I gotta think without it. I mostly take the bus because it's not reliable, and I sometimes being late or not at all. I want to live close so I can walk to work and be responsible, and being on time is important for me because I need to work at distant hours, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you gonna say anything more about him? No. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Yep. I just wanted to make sure.
We wanted to make sure you
Adam?
had enough variety.
Could I just request that everybody who is speaking,
Yeah,
fill out a
introduce
form,
themselves. Yeah.
actually the yellow forms, just so I can get the names.
Yep, will do.
Before you leave, thank you.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for having us and inviting us and to come and talk to you about this, what I believe is as a project for great pride and potential for your community. My name's Chloette Haley, and I live in Stillwater. I've been a resident for 25 years. I've raised my son here in this area, and his name is Luke, and he has Williams syndrome, and he's on the spectrum, the autistic spectrum. Luke still lives in our family home, and it's something that's happening everywhere. Parents are aging, and the model has been that we've raised our children beyond, the typically 18 when your child moves on. Many of our children stay in place. So I've been parenting my son. He's now 26, and he's still in my family home. And it's really important for kids like Luke to move on like their peers move on. But they need to move on with a little bit of extra assistance. So in this case, we're talking about housing. And one of the reasons I'm presenting this slide tonight is I work with a nonprofit called Connect WC, and we're about creating communities of belonging for people who live with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we serve Washington County. We have a website. It's called connectwc.org. And I really encourage you to look at it. It's a one-stop website that connects people to all kinds of services around disabilities. But one of the reasons I'm here is to talk about community of belonging and what that means to us. And I believe it's a value that we share with the city of Lake Elmo. I'm so excited that you're doing Speak Your Piece. I love that. I love that project. And it was started in Duluth, as you know, to create communities of civility. And really, communities of civility, to me, are communities of belonging. It's where all kinds of people can stand together and be a part of each other's lives. And this is a value that parents of kids with disabilities, we really live daily. So some of the ways that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities create communities of belonging is many of our kids work here. We're providing services such as bagging your groceries, detailing your cars, like what Bo does. There may be working in rest homes. My son is a very strong volunteer. He's probably doing friendly visiting with maybe your aging elderly parent. He delivers mail. So we have these people who are very they're making huge contributions to the community already. And so they're really a part of your lives already. So what we're looking for is a place for them to live that's accessible, where they'll be on bus routes, places that will have wheelchair accessibility. Safe trafficking, slowing measures would be very important for our young people. We're looking for a place for them to live where the housing costs are within their means. And we do have funding streams available to make this work. And we need places that would be built with energy efficiency to create affordable monthly energy costs. So those are some of the things we're really looking for. We'd love to be part of your community. We would be huge contributors, and I think it could be just a really delightful thing. I think that we're also looking for a place where your Village Green idea would be a great place where we could contribute, maybe, selling produce and those kinds of things. A community center where people could all come together and share their, skill sets and et cetera. So anyway, that's my piece, and thanks for listening. And now Teresa's going to talk about
The housing
what we're
part.
talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try to answer the question you asked earlier. I took the opportunity to review the land use plan, get a sense of the densities and kind of what you were thinking about. That's why these guys can talk about, the slowing areas, which we think are amazing, and the green space. But we really believe there are potentially two opportunities, both in the downtown, in the high density and medium density areas, and the I-94 transportation corridor, the same thing, the higher and then the medium density areas. Specifically, what we are interested in is a whole, I would say, shopping possibility from apartments for people that are maybe at lower income levels because their Social Security checks aren't that high. And so, maybe the rent is $800 for a 2-bedroom apartment because they can have a roommate and they can afford to live in an apartment building, which may make more sense out on the I-94 corridor, especially if it were coupled with tax credits or some other things like that. Downtown, potentially housing over businesses, potentially duplexes. So maybe mom and dad can live below and a child can live above with a roommate, potentially side-by-side townhouses. Smaller, maybe apartment buildings that are actually condominiums. So again, people could buy units inside of them and live together or side-by-side. And I think what will be important to think about, and we would be happy to work with you on, is kind of what are the price points. I think the biggest piece is going to be looking at who's the developer and who are they partnering with and what experience do they have in delivering kind of the price point, both for the ownership units and for the rental units, because it will be easy to, even in a tax credit project, for the rent to be higher than what some of these folks can afford. So a $1,000 3-bedroom tax credit apartment building isn't going to work, but an $800 one might, and it will just depend on the experience that the person brings as well as kind of the style of units that they provide. So I think paying attention to those when you look at approving developers will be important, and it will be something that I think will make it much more possible for each of these folks to have places their children can afford to live. So I think that's all. Have I covered everything? Okay.
Where do you where do you get your funding? You said you get several different funding sources.
For the projects where there are supports around people, they have their own funds available through Social Security disability. They have some waivered service dollars, which they can use to buy services. Okay. When it comes to the housing side, the developers, and I have some developers in mind for these units, they can use tax credit, Section 811. They could potentially use TIF. There are bunches of options. I've been having conversations with the HRA about potential developers. I actually worked on a project with Shelter Corporation in the city of Lake Elmo. They've done some very nice units. Common Bond has done some really nice units in Woodbury, as well as John Duffy's done some nice tax credit units in Forest Lake and in Woodbury. So there's definitely the talent out there that could potentially deliver the units that would work for these folks. I think it's just, again, paying attention to the price point and making sure it's affordable. One of the pieces that I've noticed most is I went out and actually looked at the townhome market currently. And townhome market is pretty good as far as price point goes, but the association dues are so diverse. And once they get above $175 a month, it gets prohibitive for almost anyone. You're talking about house payments that are now at $1,000 a month. And there are a number of developers who are building units that are at $450, $300 association dues a month. So, you know, paying attention to those pieces of the detail will make it much more possible to access the housing. And those are the places where I'll kind of be paying attention, saying, okay, we gotta make sure that when the money lays out, that it actually works. So that's where my interest is.
When you mention services, you're not strictly talking about housing, you're talking about wraparound services like a South Metro provides?
It could
or-
be something as simple as transportation. It could be a PCA who comes to the house in the morning to make sure the person has whatever assistance they need to get going before they go to work or go to a day program. It could be, how else do you guys use services? How do your kids use services?
To get out in the community.
Yeah, to be able to volunteer.
So my son has a staff person that goes with him to Good Samaritan Center so that he can volunteer, and he volunteers at about 4 different places in the community, and that requires a staff person to go along to provide support.
The reason why I asked, I have several apartment buildings in St. Paul that I basically master lease to South Metro and some of those agencies. So
Right.
I'm just curious how if you're just looking for the housing piece, that's one thing, but if you're looking for, social workers to come in or
Right.
PCAs.
Well, it could follow that model. It could be something where you have an apartment building of, let's say, 12 units and 4 have people living with them that all would need similar support services, where you could contract someone to either have an apartment as an office and provide services in-house, or it could be that they all have different service provider and you have a hub where they can check in and check out of. Or for some of these folks, they may need not as much services so they can live independently on
right.
their own. So it'll depend as much as,
And what do you think the
them.
demand for this is?
there are, the county estimates right now, there are 365 residents who currently are living with their families or in corporate foster care they feel are in a good position to be able to move. We've been asked to identify 65 and actually move 11 in a year. From that point on, to build a model that is something that can then help people be able to move into community after that, so that case managers and everyone will be able to implement the model across the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, I think about this, I've thought about this over and over. My sister has a son who's autistic. He's extremely autistic and will never live anywhere besides with my sister and her husband, because he could not live on his own, ever. But the spectrum is so varied. And we've talked about this, as I said, for 7 years, and there are so many kids, so many more kids nowadays that are having Asperger's and any type of amount of autism on that spectrum. What's interesting is that somebody brought up, and I'm not sure who, and maybe it was Bo, or maybe it was you, who said your son Luke goes to the Good Samaritan and goes to the old folks home, is what we would call it today, but Good Samaritan senior living. We have a project that's coming in, and what's neat about this project that's coming in downtown, it's called age-in-place housing. The concept for it, and it's very new right now, but I'm thinking about getting together, having you guys get together with someone who's doing something like this and think outside the box. If you have X amount of units in an age-in-place housing, and it's mostly older people, guess what those older people like? Talking to younger people. They love it. And maybe there's a way to have some of those units in this age-in-place housing, which we've talked about. The administrator knows that I've been working on this for a while, to have something integrated, which really, truly would be cutting edge, if you think about it. Senior housing, age-in-place housing, doesn't really matter how old you are. You might be 35, but just need to be around other people and make sure that, Joe, who's 90 down the way, knows that Bill, who's 35 down the way, needs to be looked in at once in a while, or vice versa. There's some real neat thoughts going through my mind on this, and what could possibly happen in this district that we're looking at possibly, and this is this is a vote of 5, possibly having a redevelopment TIF district, which would be right in the heart of Lake Elmo. You have access then to everything, the library, the ball fields, the green, the Hagbergs, anything you might need would be right there. Busing, housing, Bo, you could walk to Fury Motors and walk home. Okay, so, I think these discussions, it's good you came. I'm glad you came, because we have been talking about this for 7 years. But I think we need to delve further into, where are we gonna go with this project that's coming? And is this group of people who own this property and are looking at age-in-place senior housing willing to say it could have a slightly different model?
And I think that group is keenly aware of the tax credits, and we talked a little bit about that in our meeting.
Absolutely.
So it might be the right kind of impetus for them to
Absolutely.
look at this stuff, so.
So I don't think there aren't decisions that can be made tonight, but, from my standpoint as a counselor, and I'm not sure where the rest of the council will go on this, yay or nay, it's infancy right now, but from my standpoint, there are discussions to be had, and we need to just work on bringing those forward, and talking to some of the developers who are planning on projects in our town. And that will happen after, the EDA meets, and there's so many other pieces to the puzzle right now. I wish I could say it'd be next year, but we're trying to get a sewer pipe up here to get these projects in. But I'd like to at least say that there's a hope. In my vision, there's hope to have some type of cross-pollination between these ideas, for lack of a better word.
That's a pretty good word.
You think so?
I don't know, I thought so, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, listen, I
So
think,
that's all we can really do is, I think, Mike, Mayor, Wally, at this point, is say, we need to go through the process and see what's coming and see if there's this kind of marriage that can be had.
I guess we came here with the hope that you would at least invite us back to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
When they come about, because we've been saving up for a cabin up north, and that's not gonna happen because we gotta get a house down in Lake Elmo for Hannah, right? So, it's a good thing for everyone. She would be a wonderful helper to the 86-year-old Bob down the road.
And I get that, and I think that's where the marriage between these concepts is really, I mean, it's really cutting edge, if you think about it.
Ever since we met with them, Nick and I have been just batting this back and forth about how we can kind of create these synergies, and Nick Johnson's really excited about this project, and he's reached out to some of his folks that he went to the Humphrey with who work on these kind of housing things. So we put a little bit of energy on this, and we think that there is, there's definitely some synergy there, and there's definitely some opportunity. And not necessarily just in the near downtown, but the kind of the first core of houses that are gonna go around that, where you might be able to work in a facility within a neighborhood where the neighborhood kind of adopts that facility as well, so.
Well, and I never thought about the I-94 corridor. I think Teresa brought it up. Again, you're so close to other services there that if you have an adult child who really can live on their own, but still needs to be close enough, within 5 to 10 miles of those who take care of them best. As my sister says, no one's gonna take care of my son the way I take care of my son. And that's truly true, as I see it now, going through this for the last 17 years. So having the proximity is really truly, whether it's, as Teresa said, down on I-94 or up here, or a mixture of both. So you're invited back for the talks.
yeah, we in '94, we had a '94 work group I was in, and we did some rezoning and whatnot down on the corridor. We prepared a plan for it, and this topic was brought up. At the time we did, I think everybody on the group thought it was a good idea, something that they'd be interested in, but we really didn't have a mechanism to prohibit or promote it or encourage it and all that. So I don't know that we still don't, I guess, apparently, but I think everybody be sympathetic and motivated to allow for something to better it. And better our community and your lives and everything would seem to be a wonderful thing.
And with is it District 912?
916.
916.
Yeah, 916.
With the school, I
Right.
think that's gonna breed some more discussion, right? So let's just keep it open.
Well, and a quarter of people will become disabled at some point in their lifetime, from cradle to grave. A quarter percent of people will encounter disability just anything that creates more housing that's encompassing of all citizens,
Mhm.
you can't go wrong.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And we'll do
Thanks
what
for
we
your
can do.
patience. We ran a little long tonight,
Okay.
so.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Does council?
Thank you much.
Does council have time for a quick 10-minute presentation?
Sure.
Pardon?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure we do. What else we gonna do?
Alyssa McLeod wanted
down,
to
I
kind
need
of
some
present
sod down.
the results of our community engagement survey, and we're just gonna give you a brief overview this evening on the results of our survey. I wanna go here, don't I?
I didn't touch your hand. I don't know how you got
Where is
sick.
it? Here. There it is.
It stinks, man. It's been 10 days for me, but not a happy
Thanks.
camper.
Very quickly, by the way, this particular workshop tonight, I think is one of those ones where we might do it once a year or twice a year so that you can kind of see what I call the hidden gems in the community. You know, if you don't know what's going on at Cimarron, or you don't understand what youth services bureaus are doing, or if you don't take a look at the community policing that Deputy Andy and John and those guys do for us, you know, sometimes you can kind of miss what I think are some of those things in the community that we need. Alyssa McLeod and her Next Generation group, with the help of David Steele's daughter, who is a 916 gifted and talented student, put together this community engagement survey, just looking at some of basic questions on Lake Elmo. And one of the things that we looked at was, what would you like to see in Lake Elmo? And we mined a lot of data out of a bunch of questions, but we found that our 26 to 35 age category is the most desirous of more amenities, businesses, and services in Lake Elmo. But what we also found in our 51 to 65 demographic, they like it to stay the same. Now, I want you to remember this one as we go through here, but most folks, the younger group, want to see retail shops, coffee shops, grocery store, youth programs and child care, as you saw today, small businesses, and items like farmers markets. And she kind of drew some of the data out of you'll all get a copy of this emailed to you probably later this week. So you can see that our younger group wants to see Lake Elmo become a little bit more of a sense of place, vibrant, similar to what we talk about in terms of the redevelopment or the rebirthing of our downtown. Our older group kind of likes the way things are. Very quickly, our 65 plus population, and don't jump out of your seat, Councilmember Smith, because you already know this, our 65 plus population is not sold on staying in Lake Elmo. How do we keep them around? And if you take a look at how likely are to live in Lake Elmo for the next 5 years, jump all the way down to that last 65 plus category, and because they don't see very many options for them, they say that they're not very likely to live here. For us, this is kind of one of those, validators of the fact that this is a gap in our housing market. But you can see in our younger ages, 26 to 35, 36 to 50, and 51 to 65, those folks want to stay here, hope to stay here. They say they're likely to stay here, but our 65 plus group are saying they're not very likely to stay here. And that's because we don't have very many options. The next question, very quickly, as a city, we need to find a way to make new and younger members of our established community feel welcome. Sense of community by age, we are weak in the 26 to 35, stronger 36 to 50, drops off a little bit 51 to 65, and if you do some of the drilling down in the 65 plus, the sense of community drops a little bit as they try to figure out if they get to stay here or not. There's a correlation to that data. You know, there isn't a place for us to stay. So in that 36 to 50 or 51 to 65, where you're either in that second house, and we're a second house community, or in your lifelong house, you feel pretty much like you have a sense of community. You've established your friends, you're establishing your neighborhood. When you first get here, it's hard to connect. And when you get older, where am I going to go? And these are the things we're hearing. We're hard to connect for young people, and where am I going to go for our senior post-retirement group? Now, guess what? That might be our identity. That might be something we can't overcome. We might not be the end-all, be-all community for folks, but that's what folks are feeling. Our community actively reads the source and uses our parks. They are, however, not active in other events. So we took a look at them volunteering in community, using our recreational programming, using our library, and that one I think is one that the council needs to take a closer look at. Public meetings, visiting parks, and reading the newsletter. In terms of how they connect to the community, visiting our parks, so we know that open space, attribute that we have, and reading our newsletter are high in terms of their involvement. But library we thought might be a little bit higher. It's not. Volunteering, using our recreational programming, mainly Lake Elmo baseball and St. Croix, athletics, those kinds of things. Not as high as I thought they would be, but that could be the fact that we're graying a little bit. Come to public meetings, we're low. That's why we're taking our meetings out on Thursday to neighborhoods and using our information systems to see if we go to them, if that's going to make a difference.
As fun as we are, I find that very disappointing.
You are entertaining, that's for sure.
People don't want to watch us?
So,
Yeah, something's flawed.
very quickly, in general, we being citizens of Lake Elmo, view Lake Elmo as an excellent place to live. We rate high in what place to raise children in our neighborhoods, place to live in terms of quality of life, overall quality of life, place to retire shrinks, place to work, we don't work here, okay? In fact, latest data, and Kathy left here, puts us at 87% residential, 11% commercial, 2% other. That's going to place a burden on services as we grow. We need to balance out that place to work. So things that we know, things that we've hopefully planned to address. But then this fun thing is this that Alyssa does, and this is kind of new in kind of demographic studies and survey studies, is this word usage frequency tool. And that is, we're going to end our presentation tonight by showing you words that in the comment section or the verbatim section of this survey that are repeated the most, and they are represented in the largest words. And no, Wally, it's it's not golf. It's not golf. So it's not golf. That's actually a little bit more appropriate for Councilmember Reeves.
I understand.
What? It's not golf, but it's not hockey either. But what it is community center, a sense of place. I think that transcends the library. Pizza parlor, restaurants, bakery, ice cream shop, retirement facilities. The larger the word, the more it shows up in the surveys. Single level living, that's directly attributable to senior housing. One level, kind of rambler kind of stuff. So community, pool or some kind of aquatic feature in our community. And then these other ones drop off a little bit. So this is actually kind of a neat kind of depiction of what people want to see. Community center, I think, when you're talking to the younger folks, has some kind of recreation basis, handball courts, an indoor court kind of thing, an indoor meeting space. People do not equate our library with a community center. A community center is kind of that multi-purpose place that a lot of different things can go on. Pizza parlor up there, ice cream shop. So coffee shop didn't show up there, but what we're finding in talking to our friends at Caribou and talking to our friends at other coffee shops is that the Minneapolis market very much a commuter coffee buying kind of community. So coffee shops aren't as much a sense of place in the suburbs as the quick place stop, get your coffee. You get on campus, you get in St. Paul, Wi-Fi's, those kinds of things could happen. I still think that there's a market for that, and we are talking to some folks that are interested in that right now. But if you want to know, just based on the survey and based on frequency of mention in the survey, those are the things that show up. And these are quality of life things, so that's why you're looking at it right now. Community center, downtown, somewhere, sense of place, maybe on the corner of 5 or whatever, if you do a YMCA. Pizza parlor, ice cream shop, those kinds of fun places to gather, especially after sporting events or neighborhood meetings or school things or things like that. We've got a pretty good continuum of, the pub bar, Twin Point, the family restaurant, Gorman's the 5-star restaurant, Lake Elmo Inn. The gap is in some of these, what I would consider to be more casual kind of meeting place, And then take a look at retirement facilities and single level living. that comes from a certain portion of the demographic that would like to stay here. So, and remember when you say that, and I think a lot of times, and I've been talking to my colleagues about that, when you talk about single-level living, age-in-place housing, retirement facilities, and this is the way you have to take a look at this, my business guys here. Those are the folks that have lived in your community for a long time that want to stay here. So they're your lifelong corporate investors with their tax dollars. You know, they'd like to have a return on that, you know, and I don't know if necessarily know if it's Florida, but I think in this case would like it to be maybe I'd like to live in the place that I've invested my tax dollars in my school district, you know, where my church is, where my neighbors are. You know, I think a lot of times it's, oh, we'll put them off in assisted living, or we'll put them in age in place somewhere else, or corral them in a big facility like Boutwell's, and I'm not disparaging Boutwell's, but really a lot of these folks want to live age in place in their community, or maybe cluster with other folks in the community, and those are your lifelong, most invested taxpayers and residents that you've had that want to do that. So I just thought you might want to see this. You could probably put coffee shop by bakery there, because that seems to make some sense. But this is what this survey did, and this is a really neat way of looking at it. You know, rather than just basically giving you verbatims like we did with the garbage survey, here, these are the words that kind of pop out with you visually on what your community might like. So, by the way, the Alliance for Innovation, which you know is an organization I subscribe to, the best management practices group in local governments in the country, really liked this survey and what we did with it, because we're kind of a mixed bag community. And generally, a lot of next generation work isn't happening in the suburbs. It's happening in everybody wants to live downtown where the clubs are and the loft above. You know, it's not happening in the suburbs. So we're one of the test cases for how it could happen in kind of a second ring suburb. And Alyssa and her group, Ms. Steele, that group is doing a nice job of kind of corralling all this information as we move ahead. So that's my quick presentation there to round out your quality of life workshop. I hope you found this useful tonight. I think we've got a lot of neat things happening here myself. So thank you very much,
Thank
Council.
you. Are we gonna get this, is this gonna go out on the source, or what do we?
Yeah, well, this will be on the website.
Okay.
The results are gonna be reported in the source. You'll get copies of this
Okay.
in your email. I just didn't get that to you because I thought she might present it tonight, but this just kind of knocks this one out, and this will be in the source. It will be on the website. By the way, the source continues to be a trusted way to inform the public. Facebook, Fresh, those kinds of things that we're doing. So we're really making some good headway in citizen engagement.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. Okay, well, it's nice everybody to come on in, huh? All right. Anything else? Adam? No? This meeting's adjourned.
Now you know how I felt.
How did you feel?